Welcome to the July 16th, 2007 Lowell Planning Board meeting. Tonight we have acceptance of minutes of our May 21st, June 4th, and June 18th meetings. At this point in time, I request that we put those on for later on in the agenda so we can take care of the public hearings that are before us. Any of the board members have any problems with putting those to the later part of the meeting? No. Having none, I'll continue on. So tonight we do have 3 public hearings. The first public hearing is a zoning amendment. This is a priority development site in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 5. The Lowell Planning Board will hold a public hearing to hear all interested persons relative to an ordinance to amend the Code of Zoning, City of Lowell, with respect to Appendix A, therefore entitled Zoning. This amendment would establish a new Section 9.5 of the Zoning Code, establish procedure, requirements for permitting developments and priority development sites as defined by Mass General Laws, Chapter 43D, and established by the Lowell City Council. The amendment would also designate the Hamilton Canal District as a priority development site. This matter is before us tonight for public hearing. This matter, we make a recommendation, and this recommendation will go back to the City Council, and the City Council will have a future public hearing on this matter. Our recommendation is not binding, but procedural-wise, it comes before us for public hearing to make a recommendation back to the City Council. Having said that, may we hear the case for the applicants at this time, please.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Board. My name is Adam Bakey. I'm the Deputy Director of the Division of Planning and Development for the city. And as was explained in that helpful introduction, the zoning amendment that's before you this evening relates to a relatively new state program that was adopted by the state legislature last year to designate priority development sites around the state. It's under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 43D, which is also known as the Expedited Permitting Bill. And the intention of this is to create locations throughout the state where development is desired and enable a simpler and more streamlined permitting process for economic development activity to occur within those areas as a means of attracting development to the state. And obviously, in our case, we're interested in attracting it to the city. And the Lowell City Council in May adopted the provisions of Chapter 43D and applied to the state to designate the Hamilton Canal District, which is the development area which constitutes 15 acres at the western end of the Jackson-Appleton-Middlesex urban renewal area. For those who are familiar with the city, that's the area that used to be the Freudenberg Nonwovens and several of the vacant lots and vacant buildings that you can see from the Lord Overpass as you come into downtown. And that's an area that has long been felt to be a priority for the city and a prime development opportunity for the city. And as many of you are also aware, the city is in the process right now of identifying a master developer for that area. So it was an ideal location in the mind of the City Council to designate as the first priority development site under Chapter 43D in the city. And that could be the only, or it could be the first of several, depending on the wishes of the community. One of the things that goes with that, the state did approve our application to designate that location, but one of the things that goes with it is we do need to make some fairly minor procedural changes to our zoning to be consistent with the provisions of Chapter 43D, and that's what's before you this evening as a zoning amendment. There are essentially 3 pieces to this. The first piece is merely to establish that priority development sites can exist in Lowell and to designate the Hamilton Canal District as the first one. The second provision is that within for projects that are economic development projects within the designated areas, the state requires that the permitting process from the date upon which a complete application is filed with the city to the date that all decisions by all of the regulatory boards that govern that particular project complete and issue their decisions be no more than 180 days. So one of the provisions in the zoning amendment before you is basically to codify that 180-day time limit. Now, fortunately for the City of Lowell, this planning board and our other regulatory boards routinely and consistently operate in a manner that is more expeditious than that. So our impression is this will not have a significant impact on the way the boards typically review projects, and there is nothing in it that would in any way restrict your ability to say no within 180 days to projects that you don't think are appropriate. You just have to say no within 180 days. You can't wait till 181 days to say no. The final thing that would be in this amendment is to make it clear what is already possible, but to make it clear that you can actually file if you are a development project, you can file your applications to multiple boards concurrently. If you need approval from, say, the planning board for site plan and the zoning board for a special permit, perhaps, you can actually file those two together. Now, other provisions of our code require that the planning board decision still has to occur first because your conditions would need to get incorporated into the zoning board's condition. But in order to expedite the whole process, we make it clear that they can start the public hearings simultaneously if they wish. And that's really the content of the ordinance, and I'll let the public hearing continue, but I'll stick around and be happy to answer any questions that any of the board members may have. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak in favor of the zoning amendment?
Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Board, my name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. I'm speaking in favor of this. This is excellent public policy, and it definitely tells business community, developers, come to Lowell, you're welcome. We want you to come in and open up economic opportunities, open up businesses, create jobs. Thank you very much.
Anybody else like to speak in favor of this zoning amendment? In favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none. Anybody like to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none. Public hearing is closed. At this point in time, I'll turn it over to if any of the board members have any questions or want to be heard in regards to the zoning amendment.
I have one question, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
Mr. Lockhart, go ahead, please.
Are there other sites in Lowell that have been designated as priority development sites? Adam? And will they be reflected on changes in the zoning map, or what?
I'm sorry, I actually couldn't hear the question over the emergency vehicle
okay.
out there.
Are there other sites within the city that have been designated as priority development sites? And if so, will they be reflected on changes to the zoning map?
Currently, there are no other sites that have been so designated, but if it is the wish of the City Council in the future to designate additional locations, they may do so. In order for them to be governed by the zoning, there would be a subsequent zoning amendment that would also be necessary so that the zoning map could reflect that as well. And there certainly are other locations within the city where our master plan and other documents would certainly encourage development, particularly economic development, so the possibility certainly exists going forward. However, this would be specific to the Hamilton Canal District.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Just
Mr.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Adam, looking at 43D, and I understand too, there's also grant funds available to the city, and would that be predicated on this being adopted, this ordinance here?
Actually, we've been fortunate enough to receive the full or the maximum $150,000 grant that we would be eligible for under the program, and that has been dedicated to helping to facilitate the public input process and ultimately the code development process and the master planning process that will occur for the Hamilton Canal District once the developer is named. There's been a number of reports in the community, perhaps misinformed, that suggest that a master plan already exists for the Hamilton Canal. That actually is not the case. And the expectation of that project is that it will be an economic development project, it will be a mixed-use development project, but that the actual master plan and the definition of exactly what will occur within the district and where will actually only happen after a very extensive public process that will occur after the developer has been brought on board. And this grant will be used to help to facilitate and finance that project.
Good. Do you have any idea of the timeline on that master plan development?
Well, the city is hoping to name the developer fairly shortly. Right now, the reason we have not named the developer is that a portion of the Hamilton Canal District has been designated as the location for the new trial court facility for Lowell. And we are currently, the city administration is currently negotiating with the state's Division of Capital Asset Management, or DCAM, to work out exactly the terms of what property would be the exact location of the judicial center, and some of the other terms. It appears that perhaps the state will be able to assist us with some of the other costs of the project. So we're trying to ultimately arrive at a very attractive deal there, and then once that is clear, we're able to then go back and present that to our potential developer finalists, understand how that might change their proposals or their offers to the city, essentially. And then from those revised offers, we'd be able to make a definitive decision and recommendation. We're obviously working very, very hard to try to make that happen as quickly as possible. Of course, we are obviously working with a state agency, and we don't necessarily control their timeline as much as we would like to. So.
And just one other question. I see in 43D we are to designate a person that coordinates all of this. Are you the designee, I take it?
I am the official designee, so to speak, although James Erickson, who you know very well, is your former administrator, has now been promoted to be the Urban Renewal Project Manager, and he will be also working very closely in that process, and I trust that you all are very familiar with his expertise with respect to these types of matters.
Thank you.
Mr. Gentleman, any questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this sounds like it's an overlay district, is that right? Is that an appropriate way to term it?
Essentially, yeah. It would function with respect to the zoning map, it would essentially function the same way that an overlay would.
Doesn't really change the underlying zoning of the area in which, okay.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, no, it sounds like a reasonable proposal. The obvious question would be, if we're so expeditious in turning things around, why do we need it? But I suppose it's probably a good tool for marketing for the city and attracting businesses to come locate here, as well as the grant opportunities that it opens up. Is that fair?
Probably couldn't have said it a whole lot better.
Well,
Essentially, those are the two primary
I guess
benefits.
I got the point then.
Yep.
Okay, I think that sounds fine.
Great.
Joe, any questions, concerns?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, Adam, this will affect all projects then filed for special permits or site plan within the priority development sites. Okay. With regard to the language of the proposed amendment under 9.5.3, it says all special permit or site plan review decisions, et cetera, shall be issued within 180 calendar days. Now, the last sentence says decisions may include approval with conditions, or denial of the proposed project. But this is not intended to modify our approval process, right? Site plan review would be site plan review. It wouldn't be something that would be subject to denial per se.
That's exactly right. The reason for that sentence is to make it clear that this designation does not in any way take away any authorities that currently rest with any of the boards with respect to the ability to deny and/or condition projects where that is deemed appropriate. If you don't have the authority to deny a project, as is the case with site plan review typically, that would not change. But it also wouldn't change where you do have the authority to deny a project. You would still have that authority. You would just have to execute whatever authority you do have within the 180 calendar days.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Adam, I just have one question. If we amend this to our zoning code, do we have in our zoning amendment code that we have a priority development site, and then we can bring any priority development site in before us, or do we have to go back to the zoning code each time we want a priority development site?
Well, the majority of this amendment, which establishes and sort of enables priority development sites locally under zoning, would not need to be changed in subsequent times. What the second piece, or the additional piece of this, is the description, the legal description of actually adding and designating the Hamilton Canal District within its bounds as a priority development site. You would need a similar zoning amendment in the future should the board wish to designate another location, or the city council or anyone else wish to designate another location as a priority development site.
I understand. Thank you very much. Anybody else have any other further questions or concerns? Hearing none, what's the wish of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval of this ordinance to the city council.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes yes. The board votes 5 in favor and none against to recommend that this zoning change go back before the city council with a favorable recommendation. Thank you very much, Adam. We appreciate your input. Moving along, the next matter we have is a site plan review, which is 520 Fletcher Street. the Lowell Planning Board may review an application by Merrimack River Valley House, Inc. for a site plan review for a project located at 520 Fletcher Street. The proposal includes the construction of 18,000 square foot addition to an existing 17,200 square foot building to update and expand the existing use on site. The project is located on a 41,281 square foot lot with 270 feet of frontage and 2 curb cuts along Fletcher Street. The project is located in the traditional neighborhood multifamily zoning district. This project requires site plan review under section 11.4 of the Lowell zoning ordinance. May we hear the case from the applicant, please?
Testing? We all set, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry about that. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Board. My name is Jerry Foley, Belanger and Foley Incorporated, 55 Middlesex Street, North Chelmsford, here representing River Valley House. Tonight with me I also have Ray Hardy, who's the Director of the Board of Trustees, and Harvey Boulay, who's a consultant for River Valley House, working on this project. Again, we've been through the pre-application hearing. I know you have a busy agenda. Maybe I could skip through the existing conditions on this particular piece of property, if that's okay, and go right to the proposed development. And then from there, what I'd like to do is go briefly over the building and then bring you up to date with respect to a meeting that was held on June 26th with the neighborhood, and go from there. Again, I think everybody's familiar with where the property is located on Fletcher Street, 520. There's an existing building on the property of approximately 7,000 square feet, a little more than that. And what we're proposing to do is add an additional 20 beds to the existing 27 that are there now. This is a facility that's been in operation since the turn of the century. And as we stated in our application, there is a need out there with this aging population to provide these types of service, specifically in an urban environment and in neighborhoods like this. What we've done is we've tried to match the mass and scale and texture of the existing building. It's a very unique building. It's a beautiful building. And what we'd like to do is complement that while we're not only responding to the need out there, but also responding to the need to make it fit into the neighborhood properly. What we've come up with basically is a mirror image of the existing building. The existing building is an L shape. It was added on to some time ago from here back, but they did a nice job with that addition. There's an elevator that's on this end of the building, and then what we did was we basically mirrored this, flipped it over. We added another elevator in here and added another entrance over here. When we spoke to you last, we were contemplating a revision to this end of the building with a handicap ramp, and it really did impinge on access back and forth. So we decided to get rid of that idea, and we're going to put the handicap ramp in the back of the building over here, where we can easily, accommodate access this way. So that gets rid of this whole issue with respect to, access in here. Currently, there is one-way traffic in and out of the property, entering here, going around the building. And on the existing conditions plan, you'll be able to see that there's an exit right here. When we put the building on, we encroach into that existing parking lot, and we have to eat up some of that space. That necessitates moving the driveway to the north a little bit, but we can do it in a manner that complies with the zoning bylaws with respect to the number of parking spaces and the offset requirements. Some of the features here, again, we come in here. We did have a bottleneck at this location with the existing garage, particularly for truck traffic coming and going to the site. So we're proposing to diminish that, but there's another potential idea in the offering that I'll bring up in a minute. But we do want to do something with this strictly to get rid of the traffic problem. There would be a small loading area in here for, somebody come in and unload the supplies they need on a daily basis for putting meals out and such. Again, one-way traffic out, angled parking in here. Right now, we're proposing the dumpster at this location. We're proposing a handicap parking space, which is also a van parking space, and can also double as an ambulatory pickup and drop-off. Under the zoning bylaw chart, I think if you take a look at that chart quickly, you'll see that we meet all the criteria for zoning. Even though we're diminishing the number of parking spaces from what we have now, we have more parking than what we need. And again, just to reiterate what we said before, the residents of this facility don't drive. None of them have cars. At peak times during the day, serving meals and such, this is a 24/7 operation, but at peak times, the employee count is somewhere between 12 and 15 people. So we have the space for them as well. One of the things that we did not have a great amount of with the existing plan is some place that was really accessible by the residents to get out and walk around and enjoy. Although there was a green space here to this side of the existing building that will now be occupied by a building, it really wasn't accessible. It was a slope, it was grass, there were no walks there, and it was kind of a tough spot to get to. Plus, it was difficult to control. With this new proposal, what we're doing is we're putting a garden area out here. We're going to relocate the existing gazebo to the center of that. And now what we have is a controlled environment right here, off an atrium that's on the interior portion of the building at this location. So we have both an inside and an outside recreation area. Again, this is a walkway that's circular, or rectangular, I should say. It allows people to go out, go for a quick stroll. There's a retaining wall that encompasses that area so that there's control over the situation. Nobody can get in or get out from there. There's also a fence to try to shield some of what's going on in the parking lot. There are some existing lights here to illuminate the parking area. Our game plan is to keep those in place, although one of the things that came up at the meeting with the neighbors is a proposed change to that. If I could just quickly go over utilities. Let's talk about drainage first. Right now, what we have is a combined sewer and drainage system out there. There's a real convoluted set of pipes coming into a manhole at the rear of the building at this location right here that exit through the building, go out here to the street, and tie into the sewer. The sewer and drainage are combined at this location. They are not separated. So as such, this is an issue that if we have the ability to address it at this point in time, we should do that, which is what we've done. We propose to go in and scope out, terminate these pipes and separate the sewer from the drainage. We're going to pick up the drainage now in a couple of different catch basins. We've got a catch basin proposed here, one inside the garden, one at this corner of the parking lot, and one at this corner of the parking lot. All the drainage will be routed to basically a very large septic tank. It's called a water quality inlet, where most of the solids will drop out. From there, we're going to go into an underground storage area, which consists of 24-inch pipes laid out and set in 3/4 inch and a half stone. This set of pipes terminates at a header at both ends, and then there'll be an overflow, a 6-inch PVC overflow, which then connects out here to the storm drain. We still have to get rid of the storm water, and site constraints are such that we can't contain the entire volume of runoff that a 50-year storm or a 25-year storm might generate. So what we have done, though, is we've been able to create a timing situation where, if a peak storm comes along, or the peak of that storm comes along, where the pipes out here are starting to get inundated, what we're doing is we're filling up in here. So when that peak passes, and if this should get filled up, this will come out at a controlled rate of flow after this is subsided. So that's what we've done on the drainage side. On the sewer side, we're going to reroute all the sewer internally. There's an existing connection right here. The new plumbing code requires that we put in an exterior grease trap. And so what we propose to do is pick up all of the sewer waste pipe inside, route it out to the same location but with a new pipe. The new pipe will again tie into the existing connection out here on Fletcher Street. We'll put in the grease trap, and then we'll tie that off into the new connection. On electricity, there is a siphon pole located right here which comes overhead to the corner of the existing building. We're anticipating a new pad mount for this. Although they're not the most beautiful things in the world, unfortunately they sometimes have to go where we don't want them. And this one is proposed to go right here. We've got enough experience with the electric company to know that they're not very big at hiding these things around the corner or putting them in a place that's not very accessible. It's you know, it's one of those things I run into everywhere I go. It's, you know, what do you do with it? Because they also don't want us to cover the thing up with plants either. You know, they want it to be accessible. And I guess it's like white noise. You know, you see them all over the place, but you don't really notice them. Lastly, the gas and the water connections. We've had our subs out to the site, and the gas and water connections are adequate where they are. We don't anticipate any upgrades at this time, so we don't have to make any new curb openings. Just a quick little detail, if I could. Blowing that section up of the addition. Here's the existing building down here. But this kind of gets rid of all the other stuff that was on the previous drawings, just to kind of clean it up for you. So as you can see, the setback of this building is consistent with the setback of the existing building, so we still will have a continuous front yard across here. We'll put some landscaping out front. We've got the garden area with flowers and shrubs with a stone wall and a fence. And you can see how this works, people getting in and out with the one-way traffic. If I could, I'd like to speak briefly about the building. This is a rendering similar to the one you saw before. What we attempted to do here is, again, try to match the mass, the size, and the texture of the existing building. We're proposing to continue a water table up here of a stone or a stone-like material. That kind of takes the height off of this a little bit scale-wise. And we're making a prominent tower feature right at this location. There's a grade change that we have to accommodate, which this helps to take care of. As you come into the building, you'll be at one level, then you'll be able to go like a half a level up to the next. The corridors connect all at the same level, so there's no need for anyone to change elevators to get from one level to the other than where the elevators are existing at this end of the building and proposed at this end of the building. The first floor down here will have community room, offices, recreation space, and whatnot. And the floors up above will have, you know, the nurses' stations and the rooms. And again, I don't know how much you want me to get into the floor plan of the building, but I think that's been submitted for review in case you want to take a look at that. But again, this is the corner right here. You come into a lobby, you know, restrooms. Here's a community room that opens up to an outdoor patio with a sunroom over here. And here's the garden area that we talked about. We propose a new elevator right in here that allows you to get from that lobby area up to these elevations and subsequently up to the next floors. The corridor connections are straight through. The design criteria we had to meet is design criteria that's put out by the Department of Public Health. We've got a simultaneous and parallel approval process that we have to go through. They're very stringent. One of the criteria that they have before we can take it to the next step is that we have to have local planning board approval before we can file our application with them to go to the next step for their approval. And these are just the rooms above. The rooms above, I think the thing we want to point out is that this new section will have the ability to accommodate male and female residents. So if, for example, we've got an elderly married couple, you know, that want to stay together, that will now be something that they can do. And lastly, I guess what we want to talk about is a meeting that was held on June 27th, I believe, with the neighbors. And again, just an overview, much like what we did right here. And a couple of points that came out that we wanted to bring to your attention that might result in changes, but we didn't make the changes. We wanted to discuss them with you first. Let me get this drawing back up. Be a goalie. Okay. Currently, the dumpster is located right here. The neighbors suggested that we relocate this to this location. which I believe we don't have any issues with. We'd have to work that detail out because we still want to have a place to put some outside yard equipment, mowers and things of that nature. So, this might end up, rather than just modifying this garage, just getting rid of it. We're not sure yet, but it's not a bad little building, and we'd like to keep some of it if we could. The next thing that the neighbors brought up that they wanted us to bring to your attention, the lighting. Right now, the lights are not cut-off lights. They have a tendency to disperse the light all over the place. So what we could do is we could keep the poles and change the lamps to the full cut-off lamps that would just get the light to shine downward. And those are really the only two substantive things that came out of that we're proposing tonight. They may want to bring up other issues that may or may not relate specifically to this site, but those are the two that we think we can work on and accomplish. Other than that, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have right now.
Thank you, Mr. Foley. Mr. Foley, does anybody else, on behalf of the applicant, want to speak before I turn it over to the public? No? Okay. Hearing that at this point in time, anybody here like to speak in favor of this proposal? Anyone here in favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody like to speak in opposition?
Good evening. My name's Susan Hardy. I live on Mount Washington Street. I don't necessarily, I don't not disagree with the expansion. I do have concerns about parking and green space. All I see around that whole building on the back and the sides is nothing but parking, tar. There's only a little bit of green in the front. I don't understand how during some days you have 15 cars parked there. You're doubling your occupancy. That only leaves 7 people that may be able to come and visit. Our neighborhood cannot take that overflow. We just can't afford it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak in opposition? Anybody else in opposition? I was handed a letter from one of the neighbors. I will just read this letter into the record. Dated July 16th, 2007. Lowell Planning Board. Mr. Thomas Linehan, Chairman. We, Robert and Judith Garthia of 33 Mount Washington Street, Lowell, have some concerns and reservations with the proposed expansion of the River Valley House at 520 Fletcher Street, Lowell. While they have always been good neighbors and have always maintained their property well, this nearly doubles the size of the facility causes us some concern. 1, it is one of the few properties in this area with any noticeable green space. Because of this expansion, the green space will disappear. 2, there is currently sufficient off-street parking on their site. However, with this expansion, they will have more employees, more residents, more visitors, and with less parking. Fletcher Street, as you know, is a major artery, and on-street parking would be a major inconvenience. It is not a hazard for all traffic. The side street in this area are already overcrowded with parked cars and are ill-equipped to handle any additional cars. 3, some trustees of the River Valley Housing have already met with some of the neighbors and said they would make some minor changes to this proposal. While we have no reason to doubt them, we have not as yet seen any plan to execute these changes. While we are not 100% opposed to this expansion, we would be much more supportive of these good neighbors if they had concrete plans to address these issues. Thank you for allowing us to express our concerns in writing. We'd rather have come to the public hearing, but could not because of the prior commitment. Signed, Robert and Judith Garthia. Can you put that in with the minutes? Thank you. Okay. Anybody else like to speak in opposition before I turn it over to the board members? Nobody else in opposition? At this point in time, I'll turn it over to any of the board members who have any questions or concerns. Mr. Lockhart?
I don't have a sheet here from the fire department for approval. And I'm just a little concerned about the turning radiuses and the angle parking and emergency vehicle access. I think it's a great project, and I would certainly make that a condition of approval, but there's nothing that I have in this documentation that...
George, you know if we got anything
says
late on
that
that
they
today, or since the plans have been submitted to us?
I have no record of it. If it came into James on Friday or today, I wouldn't have it though anyway because he's been out. So I don't have any update on that. My perception is, certainly it's possible to wait for that or condition an approval on seeking that. Often the fire department, when looking at a project like this, is mainly looking for access to a single front of the building and wouldn't have their trucks enter into the parking areas. But certainly Captain Weber has a very good understanding of all of those details and usually provides a very insightful response when he provides one to the board, and to date we don't have one in the packet.
Thank you, George.
Okay, so that...
Anything else, Mr. Lockhart?
Yeah, just want to make a comment about you met with the neighbors, which certainly is a good thing. And if they're more comfortable with the dumpster down there, well, obviously that's where it should go. And the lighting, whatever, I would be comfortable with what they're comfortable with. Can you just go over the parking requirements and address this lady's concern about visitor parking?
Yeah,
Just the numbers to give us an overview.
well, again, looking strictly at zoning requirements, and again, this is a bit of a, it doesn't fit in specifically, but when I look at the regs, it says the minimum number of parking spaces required based upon this particular use is 17 spaces. We currently have 28 spaces, and if I don't know, every time I go over there, I'm the only one in the parking lot. And what we're proposing is 20, which is 3 over the required minimum. So I guess, had they not done this 4 years ago, we'd be coming in saying that we've got 17 spaces and we're going to increase it to 20. I'm sorry, we're going to increase it to, we have we have 20, what do we have? Existing, we have 28. Yeah, we have 28 spaces and we're going to reduce it to 20. Right. No, actually, we didn't have 28 before. Existing is now. Before we added this on, all we had was the parking back here. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We had, and maybe, I think they were parking a couple of cars over here. So I think before they put this parking lot over here, I think they had something like 12 parking spots. And it seemed to be working for them, and it's just that they had this piece of land over here, and if I'm not mistaken, they got some grant money to expand that, so they did.
Okay, I would just encourage you, there's never enough, you know that.
Mm-hmm.
To try to maximize your plan in terms of parking. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Gentleman, you have any questions, concerns?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just had one question with regard to the parking, and George, maybe you can answer this for me. What section of the parking table governs a facility like this when it comes to, what the zoning requirement? George, over there?
I think we did this under institutional use per I believe it was under per bed. So many, hospital type institutional use, so many spaces per bed, if I'm not mistaken.
1 space per 3 beds plus 1 space per emergency
Believe so,
care
yeah.
bed? That would make sense, as if you have 42 divided by 3.
Space per 3 beds.
Math isn't that good, but it's about 17.
Right.
Did that answer your question? The institutional use categories in the zoning are sometimes somewhat confusing, and we do spend a lot of time looking through this, but I believe, we were in the licensed establishment for sick or aged, which is the 1 space per 3 beds.
Mhm.
That's where that calculation comes from.
Okay. So it does concern me, as Mr. Lockhart pointed out, as much as you say, oh, I'm the only one in the lot, where are the employees parking if you're the only one in the lot?
Actually, the employees park back here.
Well, you said there could be 15 employees.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been there to observe them and if they all have cars or not, but
Right. So do you have 12, there are 12 to 15 employees now?
yeah, maybe Mr. Hardy can respond to that better than I can.
Could you just cut the microphone, sir, so people can hear you at home? Thank you. And just state your name, thank you.
Raymond Hardy, Chairman of the Board. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 17 full-time employees. They are working 24 hours shifts, so they're not all there at the same time. So in the day shift, there may be, let's say, 10 employees, and then they're spread out over the other 2 shifts as such.
Okay. And do you expect that to change with this expansion? Do you expect the number of employees to
Well,
increase?
there'll be some increase in staffing, but not in proportion to what we have now.
I see. So
You see, we have to have a critical mass of employees to be open 24/7. This is dictated by the Department of Public Health. And it is my feeling that we have a maximum number of staff, a little bit more than we need right now, but we have to have it to maintain that 24-hour coverage,
Right.
7 days a week, you see.
So you expect a slight increase to employees, but it won't be doubling the size of the employees?
no.
Maybe 14 on a maximum staff?
Yeah, about that.
About that, okay. So if you have 14 employees and you're going from an existing 28 to 20 beds, that only leaves 6 spaces for visitors or consultants or whoever else may want to go to the building. Well, I think your project certainly seems like it's going to be a worthy project, but I do have some concerns about the parking, and this is in an area, as the folks pointed out, where it isn't an option most of the time to park on the street. Fletcher Street's a busy street. The neighborhoods around there have crowded spaces, and there's no place to park on the street. I'm wondering if you can't try and squeeze out a little more parking.
If we have a big group of people there, we have an arrangement with the church next door to use their parking area, which is across the street. That's been enforced for a number of years.
I see. Is that parking lot open most of the time, except for services, I would imagine?
Yeah.
So that's good to know that.
That's it.
And if we do change something over here, you know, we could pick up 1 or 2 more spaces in this corner. With you know, putting the dumpster there, we might be able to grab another space or 2.
Right, yeah, I was thinking along there, along that entranceway, you know, either, I don't know if you
Parallels
could
right here.
angle them in there, or if you could add spaces back to back there.
Yeah, we might have some parallel parking possibilities right here. I mean, it's already paved, so we wouldn't be
Right.
adding any more pavement.
Right.
Just that we didn't, it's not striped right now, so we didn't pick it up as parking.
Right. I think that might be worthwhile investigating. And on the exitway there,
Yep.
it looks pretty tight, but I wonder if there's any way to add some additional parking on the right side there against the building.
Yeah, the minimum offset over here is 5 feet to the property line. And in order for this one-way traffic, we have 21-foot aisles,
Yeah,
you know, which is really the minimum for the one-way traffic at these locations in 45-degree angle, 60-degree angles.
so you couldn't add a space, even parallel parking along the right side of the building there?
Not without getting some sort of a variance. And then I think we're back into the issue that was brought up earlier about the emergency vehicles.
Right, right. Okay.
I'd like to mention the number of our employees, especially the younger employees, do not own automobiles, and they use public transportation or they walk to work. And that's
Really?
been that way for years, and, so that
Right.
does impact.
Right, that's kind of a unique situation though, right? So we're trying to think long-term, how if that might change.
Yeah, well, long-term, if we're going to really think long-term, we have other hopes for additional purchases in the area, so thinking long-term.
Okay. All right, I had a couple other questions too, if I could continue. So this electrical unit that you're talking about in the front of the building, I'm not familiar with that. Could you explain to me what that is?
See, that's good that you're not familiar because you haven't noticed them.
Maybe I have, and I just don't know what you're referring to.
They're green, pad-mounted electrical transformers.
Okay.
We usually paint them like a forest green.
Sure.
And they're on a concrete pad with bollards to protect them from any trucks or anything hitting them. They stand about 5.5 feet high. And the dimensions, I believe, are about maybe 5 feet wide by 2.5 feet deep. And they're basically a cabinet, and they like to have access from the road if they can get it, where they can go up, and they use hut sticks to open the doors sometimes, depending upon what the issues are. And they just, every time we've tried to put these in an area that was aesthetically pleasing, they've trumped that effort.
Okay.
And it's just one of those things that, they bring life and safety into the situation. And they're, it's funny, if you don't look for them, you don't see them.
Right,
But
right.
they're
Just take
pretty
it as-
prominent in most projects.
Okay. So you're going to address the dumpster location and the lighting. I think we
If
we
that's the
should make
pleasure,
that.
yep, if that's the pleasure of the board, we can do that.
I think that we should make that a condition. The other question I had is, who does River Valley House support? Is there anybody who applies, can access it, or is it support a specific population?
Again, I'm going to have to defer to...
Mr. Hardy?
Mr. Harvey? The question was, who does River Valley House support? What is the community that it supports in the area? Type of people that, the people that go reside there.
Thank you. My name is Harvey Boulay. I'm a consultant to River Valley House. Our average resident age right now on admission is 85 years old. These are people, more than half of whom come either from the city of Lowell itself or lived much of their life in the city of Lowell and are moving back in to join the residential care facility. We provide 24-hour care that provides care for activities of daily living. These are people who can't live independently and whose families can no longer give them the level of support that they require to remain healthy and have a good quality of life. It's not a nursing home. We provide limited health care. We provide housing, meals, health care monitoring, and personal care. And so it occupies an important niche, we think, between independent or assisted living, where you have limited assistance, and nursing home care. What River Valley House importantly does is helps keep people out of nursing homes. One of the main problems in caring for this rapidly aging, increasing population is that many people end up inappropriately in nursing homes because they can't find this just nice level of care that provides a modicum of assistance that they need, where they don't need round-the-clock medical intervention or services.
And is it available to any elderly person, or is it their income requirements, or how do you choose your clients?
We are applying to the Department of Public Health for a daily rate that will make up the difference, and residents will come in. If they can pay the full rate, they will pay that. If they can't, the DPH will pay the difference between what their assets allow them to pay and the authorized rate, which will be somewhere in the vicinity of $72 to $75 a day. And so that with this, plus the resources of the River Valley House Endowment, we can take care of a wide range of income levels. We also know that some people who come in who have assets that allow themselves to pay privately will, as they live there, spend down these assets. And so we also, by taking the pressure off of the endowment that we're now using to fund all the operations of the home, we can guarantee that no one will ever have to leave the home because they can't afford to pay the full rate. So we increase the options and choices for residents and their families beyond what we have now.
I see. It seems like part of your mission is serving people from the community, people from Lowell.
Absolutely, and that has remained the case since 1867.
Great. Okay, I might want to reserve a bed there someday, so I just want to make sure. Okay, I think it's an excellent project. The only concern I have is the parking. So I would like to see you sit down and try to maximize the parking that you can get on this area, wherever it might be. Maybe you can change the configuration to some extent. It'd be nice if you could get it back to where it was, so it doesn't look like you're doubling the size and reducing the parking. I don't know if you can get quite there, but sounds like there are a few places where you could add some spots that might just take some of the brunt off of the neighborhood if that becomes an issue in the future.
Yeah, I think we, like I said, I think we can, you know, mark out some spots where the pavement already exists.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Thank you. Jerry, any questions, concerns?
Mr. Chairman, just a few comments. First of all, I'd like to compliment the petitioners and Mr. Foley because I had some issues with the original configuration at the pre-application with the handicap entrance, and I was pleased to hear that you saw that as a concern and moved that to the rear of the building. And I think by doing that, we talked about the issues with the parking. I know I was involved with an organization some time ago that did some volunteer work there, and we were able to actually park cars along the side in front of that garage. So I think there's an opportunity there to get some spots. I have to ask the question regarding the way that box in the front of the building. From your experience, what do you think we could get away with for screening on that?
I think we can, you know, perhaps put some shrubs around the side and back, but not in the front. Yeah, they won't permit that. Actually, it doesn't show on this drawing, but yeah, if we put it right here, we could, you know, we could show shrubs around the side and the back.
Because how many feet is that from the sidewalk as well? That's close.
That's approximately 15 feet from the sidewalk.
And that's going to be approximately 5 feet high?
Yeah. They have different types. They kind of dictate to us which ones they prefer, given the loads that are going to be used.
The capacity. Mm-hmm. We certainly would want to try to maximize the screening around that because it is so prominent in front of that building.
I know. If you go by Lowell Catholic, and it's right there in the front. You go by the thing that Nick Saris did down here, the senior center down there at CVS. It's right there in the front. I mean, we've tried it numerous times, but it's tough to get that waived.
Well, I'm certainly pleased with the architectural details and the care that you're taking with the addition, in meeting with the neighborhoods, the immediate neighborhood around there. The dumpster, I guess my concern. I actually went through that site yesterday, and that is tight with the existing garage, making that turn. What you're proposing to chop off or trying to, how much room is that going to give you? I'm just trying to visualize a dumpster, storage, and we're talking now maybe some additional parking. So I'm trying to get a feel for what that corner could look like.
What we try to do is we try to take off enough so that an emergency vehicle can get through, which is like a centerline radius of 32 feet. Again, if we put the dumpster over there, there's a pretty good chance that this is going to be diminished so much in size that it's not worth keeping, and we'd be better off just getting a nice shed to put out there next to the dumpster to put the lawnmower and stuff in. Mm-hmm. So if we're doing that, again, depending upon size, we need 10 by 10 for the dumpster pad, so that'll eat up some space, and the shed doesn't necessarily have to go at this location. We could probably find another spot for that.
Where would, I'm just...
Well, there's a chance that even some of that use, because now, we've got some space to work with, I think, in the back here, that's currently occupied by, did you see the ramp that was out there?
Yes,
now
I did, the handicap access
right, so
ramp.
that ramp's coming out.
Okay.
And so that's going to create, that eats up a lot of square footage.
Yeah.
So we might be able to do a couple of things here. We might be able to put a shed and grab a couple of parking spots at the same time. And again, it's out of sight. It's tucked around the corner, and you wouldn't be able to see it from the street.
Right. Okay, Mr. Chairman, that's all.
Thank you, Jerry. Joe, any questions, concerns?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I like the project. I applaud you for meeting with the neighbors as well and addressing their concerns. It certainly does provide a necessary service. Just have a question following up on some of what my colleague spoke of concerning the parking. I understand you have an arrangement with the church whenever there's maybe a large function or something where you need additional parking. Are you comfortable enough with the arrangement that you have with the church that if, as a condition of approval, we said that there'd be no overflow parking for employees or visitors onto the street, would you be comfortable enough to make that a condition? No, I'm just saying, with your arrangement with the church for the overflow parking, if, as a condition of any approval, we made a condition that there be no overflow parking for employees or visitors onto the street to alleviate any problems in the neighborhood, would you be comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay.
I might say that we have a splendid relation with the church. In the event of emergency, we do have a key to the church where we could transfer our residents to that location if there's an emergency. So you can see that there's a good relationship there.
That's terrific. Just a couple of questions following up on some details from the department notes that we received. The engineering department's all sewer and drainage will be inspected by the engineer's office prior to covering pipes during construction. You'll be all set with that. And your parking space, you have a handicap parking space in there, within there with a 5-foot area for van accessibility?
Yes.
That's
The-
all.
Yeah, the configuration is a little, we had some space to waste there, so we grabbed more space so it doesn't look as uniform as you normally see.
Yeah. I take it at this point, water utility has the information on the water size and meter size. You've been working with them on the separation of the water and sewer?
That's the next phase, actually, but our engineers have looked at it in terms of, the water demand with respect to having to bring in another tap from the street, and they're saying at this point we don't need to do that.
Okay. All right. I believe that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a couple of comments. As indicated when we came in the preliminary plan, I do like the building. I think it's a beautiful building. I believe when it came in the first time, just to get some feedback from the board, our concerns at that point in time was your turn and radius and the parking. Looking at your parking arrangements, as indicated, especially with having the parking across the street, I feel that could definitely take away any impact that the parking may have. I believe, as you've indicated, you have 20 spaces, you have a total of 17 employees, you have 10 people during the day with 2 shifts, so approximately, if you divide that in half, that'd be 5 employees. The night, if you had 7, you'd have 7 employees. So even if you increase that to, with the new proposal, and you pick up, say during the day, 2 more employees, and if they all brought a car, there'd be a total of 7, so that would still leave you 13 additional spaces, as well with the parking across the street from the church. Under the zoning, I know you pick up the required 20 spaces required by code, but I do like the fact, as indicated by the board members, that if you can pick up any additional parking, we always like that fact. I think as Jerry brought out, if you could put the shed in the back there and pick up the extra parking there, I think that'd be a good place for employee parking. Another suggestion would be sometime, if you have to utilize the church parking, might be idea just to put the employee parking over there for a little more mobile, because they're probably not 85 years of age like your staff that you're holding. So maybe if you can put that, maybe if some employees could park over there, make it a lot easier. That way, you'd have a lot more parking for the people who do visit the site. I like the fact the way you cleared up the turning radius coming in. I know that Mr. Fischette had a question on that and being up there again since it happened.
Yeah.
I know you picked that up nicely. And like you say, if you can move that shed, I like the idea that brought up with the lights facing on your side. If you could leave the poles and just change the lighting so it doesn't go onto the neighbor's yard, it wouldn't be intrusive on that part. And I think the other thing was the dumpster. If you could move the dumpster away from the very corner up by the parking and bring it back down, either in that corner where you have it, or even if you could put it in the back, if you feel that's easier to get to where your where the handicap ramp is. I don't know if that'd be easier to put the dumpster there, but that's totally something you could consider for the site. You know what I mean, Jerry? If you put it in the middle, maybe, I don't know where your kitchen apparatus and all that is, or if you're better off to keep it in a corner on the spot, I don't know.
Yeah, we're proposing the new ramp here, and this will be, there'll be some deliveries coming in to and from here. The reason this seems to work well is, we could get those front end loaders, and they can just come in, pick it up, dump it, and then
I hear you,
off
okay.
they go.
Instead of trying to turn around the back and then,
Right.
process in some of the parking area, okay. But that's the only comments I have. Thank you. Any further comments with the board? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Chairman, I had one more question. Would it be possible to formalize the relationship with the church? Maybe, we've done that before, where we had a applicant who wanted to use the parking lot at a neighbor's facility, and they, as part of their application, submitted a letter from that organization saying that, you know, River Valley House has the right to use our parking lot in the event of overflow parking. Can you provide something like that as part of the documentation of this application?
Mr. Hardy, I think what he's requesting is if we could get a letter from the board saying
Yes,
that
yes.
that you have an arrangement with the church to give adequate parking there in
Sure.
case of any overflow. Is that basically it,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman? If you have that arrangement, if we could just ask for that, and we'll get it back to our file, then we know that that accessibility is there. Obviously, if they're willing to take your tenants, then it'd be nice to see them take your parking as well, in case of an emergency. You have no problem with that? Okay, thank you. Anything else, Mr. Chairman? Any other questions?
No, that's
Okay.
good.
Any other questions by the board members?
I have none.
Okay. Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve this site plan with conditions. And the conditions I'll recommend is that the applicant receive the fire department approval for the plan, that they modify the lamps to the downward directing lamps, move the dumpster as was suggested this evening, and provide that there be no overflow parking for either employees or visitors off the site, and to document the ability to park, their parking agreement with the church across the street.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Claremont, if I could just suggest that we also add that they work with the current conditions to try to increase the parking, even if, as much as possible on the existing site, as we suggested.
Yeah, we can add that as additional
Is
condition.
that accepted as part of the motion, Mr. Clement? Okay.
Thank you.
And so also, so the applicant tried to pick up any other additional parking on site if possible, okay?
Yeah.
Motion on the floor and second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
You discussed the screening of the electrical box. That was mentioned as a possibility, and then I don't know if you want to include the engineer's comment about inspections and the traffic engineer's comments about the hatch marks as conditions as well.
I think part of the issue was you couldn't screen the electrical box. Is that correct? The
Yeah, you
electrical-
can't screen it from the road or from the access, you know,
So
you just,
you're going to screen it from both sides, but not from the road?
they've let us, in some cases, they haven't even let us put it on the side, they're just
Right.
the back, you know, which is
Mhm.
really of no use, but they won't, there are two doors, cabinet doors that open up there, and they prefer to have the opening out on the street side, and they stand at some distance, and they have to pull them open.
Well, I think in terms of the screening, if we just address that by requesting that the screening be done within the limits allowed by the electric company, that would be fine, as far as I'm concerned.
That's all you can say.
You want to add that as one of the conditions?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, if there's any way we can modify that to meet their requirements that's less obtrusive, we
You can
will.
only do what they let you, so.
That's true.
Yeah, that's right.
So that covers the screening, and I'm sorry, George, what was the other one? It was the...
The traffic engineer's request about the way the lines are done in the handicap spaces, and particularly, the engineering office and site plan review would prefer having a condition that inspections would be done so that it's clear to the developers the project is built, that they do need to call the engineering office to inspect things before they are covered up.
That was one of the recommendations by...
I believe the
Yeah, no
engineer's
problem.
office
The
did submit
engineering
that as a
department.
recommendation.
Do you want to add that?
Yeah, I think he indicated they were doing that, but we can add that as a condition, that's fine.
Approval for the city engineer request? Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, okay. There's been a motion made and second with several conditions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair
Aye.
votes yes. This motion carries, 5 in favor, none against. Good luck, thank you very much.
Thank you much for your time.
Nice.
While he's taking down his picture from the design site, just let you know that the next matter we have on the agenda will be the 612 Dutton Street, Weston Ave, and Fletcher Street. Next matter, site plan review, 612 Dutton Street, 556 Dutton Street, 51 Weston Ave, 564 Dutton Street, 62 Weston Ave, 4 Fletcher Street, and 2 Weston Ave. The Lowell Planning Board will review an application by the Westford Group, the trustees are Realty Trust, Dutton Street Realty Trust, and Dutton Car Wash for site plan review for a project located at the addresses mentioned above. The project includes the demolition of an existing car wash facility and the construction of a 3,600 square foot coffee shop / restaurant space with drive-through facility on a 20,473 square foot lot. A zoning board of appeals special permit review is required for the proposed drive-through. The project will be accessed via 2 curb cuts off the Dutton Street and is located in a light industrial mixed-use zoning district. This project requires site plan review under section 11.4 of the Lowell zoning ordinance. This matter will also need further review by the zoning board of appeals as well as the historic board. May we hear the case for the applicant, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. George Theolides Jr., 133 Market Street, Lowell. And I'm here this evening representing the Westford Group. I have with me one of the principals, Brian Marino, who's seated and will participate as necessary to answer any questions the board may have along the way. I also have with me Nathan Mahonen from Hannigan Engineering, and I'm going to after a couple of brief remarks, let him fill you in on a lot more of the project, and then we'll be available to answer some questions. We also have reviewed the commentary of the various department heads and the DPD, and I think we have responses that will hopefully satisfy most of not all of the issues that were raised there. I have, in fact, among other things, a copy of a deed that went to the landlord, whom I don't represent, but who is here this evening, the group of them, because there are multiple properties, wherein they took title to the railroad property within the confines of what has been presented to you this evening. And part of the title that the deed that they got allows for, and in fact states that either the railroad will remove the ties, the railroad rails, within 90 days from the property, or they will abandon them and lose them. The fact of the matter is they've been removed except that portion of Dutton Avenue, which is the city straight, which we don't have title, or the landlord doesn't have title to. But I'll be glad to show you and go over that. I don't want to dwell on that. Let me just say this. This is an area that we understand, my client understands, is a very critical part of the city and the renewal of the acre section of the city. It really is an entryway and an important portion of that part of the city as well. The Marino family owns, I think it's 15 or 16, if I'm not sure, Dunkin' Donuts throughout the area here. They've been in the area for more than 35, I think more, maybe even more than 40 years, running Dunkin' Donuts establishments and investing money in the city of Lowell, and they want to continue to do so, and this is evidence of their further interest in doing it. We have, from the outset, been not only engaged, as you would expect, the engineering services, but we started right away contacting the historic board and working with Steve Stowell and representatives of the National Park Service, which I'm sure you're aware of is the process that's involved here. We've had, my client and their architects have had meetings with the historic board people. Mr. Proakis attended 1 or 2 of those meetings, I know, and has been able to sit in from the Department of Planning Development standpoint. The Marino family agreed to make substantial changes, and it's kind of ironic, I should just say, and I don't want to take a lot of the time on this issue, but to me it just is illustrative of the fact that they're willing to go a long way to make the right thing happen there. The first building plan was actually I thought, a rather spectacular building to start with, beautiful brick and granite and whatever. Some of the people in the Historic Board Review Group thought that it was actually not so much in keeping with what it maybe looked a little too colonial for them, so they went back to the drawing boards and came up with a plan that I think everybody agrees to now for the building. Unfortunately, I don't have finals. I have some drawings here because they're still on the drawing board, and we're headed, by the way, we were originally intending to go to the Historic Board meeting earlier this month, but they, I think, postponed it for, I'm not sure exactly the reason, so we're headed there August 13th, I think it is. And so we think we have a very nice plan. The Dutton Street Car Wash will be demolished. The new building will be built, and if I may I just approach Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
I can
absolutely.
give you both of these.
Sure. The deed, okay. Okay. Thank you.
In any event, I think they've put together a real nice set of plans, and we think this is going to be a super addition to that area. As part of the review and the planning process that we've been doing with the Historic Board and the National Park Service people, we've been talking about how we're going to be handling the landscape along the canalway there. We're going to have a drive-up along that way. Nate will explain a little bit more of that for you, but we've got so much, the way it's been laid out, there's so much area that we can deal with that we can line up as many as 25 cars in a waiting line. We don't answer. We'd love to know that there was 25 cars queued up for a Dunkin' Donut at any given time, but I think that that's a pretty substantial line of traffic ability to be able to handle on site. So I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm going to turn over to Nate and let him give you the full summary of the plan, but Mr. Marino and I are here and ready, willing, and able to answer any other questions. And I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Councilor.
Good evening. My name is Nathan Mahonen. I'm with Hannigan Engineering. I just want to start quickly by going over the existing conditions for the site, just a brief overview of what's currently there. The site is on the corner of Dutton and Fletcher Street. Currently, there are one existing brick building. There are 3 separate bays to it, 2 existing uses. The current site has a main entrance through here, which is utilized for an existing loading dock, as well as for access to the car wash building in the back. There is also a small parking area up here with another drive entrance to the front of what's actually the entrance front to the car wash building. There are existing vacuum pumps and other utilities associated with the car wash building right in front of the building. As well as there are existing utilities being sewer, drain, gas, telephone, and electric lines that actually run down the old location of Western Ave, which runs about through the center of the property. The project, as previously mentioned, will demolish the existing car wash building, which is located in this area here. The proposal is to build a new 3,300 plus or minus square foot Dunkin' Donuts building in this area here, located towards the front end of the property, towards the corner of Dutton and Fletcher. The project will utilize the existing curb cuts that are there. The main entrance and exit for the property and for the project will be the most westerly curb cut, which will come in, which is technically still a city layout and is still Dutton Ave up until this point here. The traffic will come in. When it gets to this point, there is a divider, and there is signage to direct that this is now the drive-through lane. There are 2 lanes, 12 feet wide, at the start of the drive-through. Come up through to the drive-through menu sign, which is here. Just to pass through the drive-through menu sign, and next down to 14 feet wide for a single drive-through lane around the building, with the drive-through window being here. The purpose of the double drive-through prior to the building is twofold. One, it allows traffic, if there is for some reason a 25 car queue, they can come around, they can jump around the drive-through menu, they can cut off most of the traffic, and they can make their way around and out faster if they decide they don't want to order. The second is that this lane is to allow for the delivery trucks to enter the site. They can come down the second lane, stop here, turn into the delivery area, which is fenced in and gated on both ends. They can sit here, unload directly into the building without impeding any traffic or any pedestrian traffic on the site. Once they're done, they can take a left turn, back out to the entrance that they came in, back out to Fletcher Street, and are on their way. There's a total of 56 spaces on the site. There's a total of 41 required. We have an excess of 15 spaces. They are spread out through the site to accommodate not only the Dunkin' Donuts with the parking directly in front of it, as well as the parking to this area here, which we have 21 spaces for employees and additional Dunkin' Donuts customers, but there are also 28 spaces up here to accommodate the existing uses in the building up here, since we will be removing the existing small parking area that they had up just off of Dutton Street in the corner. The plan that was originally submitted for review has been altered slightly due to our filing with the Conservation Commission. A couple of changes were made to the layout prior to that filing as well as changes to the drainage system, which I'll get into in a minute. But changes to the layout, originally this back parking area was closed off. We opened this up and we're proposing to put a bar gate and lock across here. The reason for this is it's a better way to bring in the dump truck. That way, when we know the dump truck will be coming in, you can unlock that, the dump truck can come in, swing open the gate, pull in, lock it. They can pull straight up to the dumpster itself, back up, come back out and out the site, rather than having them come in and try to do some sort of funky turning around and actually get up to the dumpster and where they need to be. The second is we've had some conversations with Mass Electric on what's actually out there for existing utilities being for the electrical lines. And we were made aware that we should try to work around this existing pole in this area here that Mass Electric really does not want altered or touched. So what we did is we shifted the parking a little bit to the east, slided it up the front of the building, and just realigned the exit of the drive-through. The drive-through came through at a little bit more of an angle. We kind of brought it a little bit more parallel and then into an angle so it comes out so that we could accommodate Mass Electric and the existing utilities that are out there. The utilities proposed for the site, as I had mentioned, there's existing water, sewer, and drainage that runs directly through the property, so a lot of them will actually have to be altered as part of the project. One being the fact that we're altering and paving on top of it, two, because the building is directly placed on top of the existing water and sewer lines. The existing sewer line in this portion will be abandoned. A new manhole will be added here so that we can basically connect right into the existing sewer line. When this manhole is added, they can pump around so that they can maintain the actual sewer flow that's going through there while they can construct a new line, which will be done from the new manhole to the existing manhole within the right-of-way of Fletcher Street. The project itself will have an exterior grease trap located in the loading area for the kitchen use that will be inside. It's not a large commissary kitchen area. It's just for everyday baking that they need to do that's associated with the Dunkin' Donuts itself. They, on a similar size development, they actually contract a company to come in and actually pump the grease trap about twice a year. So it's not actually a lot of flow that comes out for the grease trap that it actually has to contain. But the grease trap does have an overflow and connection and will connect into the proposed manhole within the new sewer line. The existing water line is a 10-inch water main. We're proposing to gate it at this connection here, bring it around, back over to approximately where the dumpster is located, gate it in here, and make a new connection. We do have an appointment with the water department to go over how it's physically going to be constructed in the field. They do want to make sure that there is as little disturbance as possible to the existing services that are reliant upon the existing 10-inch line out there. They just want to make sure that we do it in a timely fashion and in a correct manner. They are acceptable to the location and the actual altering of the line. They just want to make sure it's done correctly during construction. The drainage system is a standard drainage system of catch basin and manholes. There are catch basins located throughout the site at low points to collect the stormwater runoff. They in turn empty into underground infiltration chambers, which are concrete chambers about 6 feet tall, 6 foot diameter, surrounded by crushed stone. This allows for the collection of the stormwater. It also allows for treating and removal of salt, sand, grease, oil, anything else that may get it into the catch basins and may make it by the catch basins and into the infiltration system itself. There are 4 different infiltration areas. These infiltration areas also do have overflow connections in case we do get a sudden flash flood that the system cannot handle. It has an overflow connection with an outlet to the canal. Now, the project itself is adjacent to the Pawtucket Canal and does have a 100-year floodplain line that goes through the property. So this drainage design, as well as the site design, still needs conservation approval, which will include their approval of the design of the outfall to the canal. We are in front of the Conservation Commission on Wednesday evening. They have reviewed it, and hopefully we'll have minor comments and adjustments as needed on Wednesday night, and we can incorporate those into the plan as needed. For landscaping, there will be landscaped islands throughout the site, as well as the Historical Commission has asked us to do a landscape screening along the canal, which is to consist of 6 to 8 foot arborvitaes spaced 2 feet on center approximate, to provide a nice screening along the edge of the canal to beautify it, as well as there's going to be a fencing along there to help with any noise or debris that might be on the site to keep it out of the canal. For the queue, I mentioned the required queue under the ordinance is queue length of 10 cars. We do have 25-car queue length, which is taken from the drive-through window to the end of the drive-through lane itself, right at the end of Dutton Ave. So there's an additional 4 to 5 car length that you can get before you actually hit out onto Dutton Street. Now, we have also received some comments from various departments within the city, and I'd just like to go through them and touch upon them quickly. I'll try to make it brief because some of the comments are relatively long, but I'll try to get through them as quickly as possible. The first comments being from the associate planner. Comment number 1 is that the proposed landscaping and parking plan for the site may not be consistent with the landscaping requirements outlined in section 6.1.9 of the zoning ordinance. I urge the board to consider this requirement, as trees and landscaping throughout the parking area will benefit the site and the city, providing character, shade, and additional health benefits. The parking plan as shown and the site plan as shown will meet the zoning ordinance requirements. We can provide a detailed landscaping plan that shows the areas that we are taking into account for the landscaping requirements, as well as show the locations of the shade trees required within the parking areas. We'd like to do this after we've received review and comments from the Conservation Commission as well as the Zoning Board, so that if there's any changes to the layout or any changes that the Conservation Commission wants to see something specific for landscaping requirements or anything of that nature, that we can incorporate that into the plan at the same time, and everybody gets the same landscaping plan. They know what's going to go out there. Everybody's approved it, and that they know that it meets the requirements of the ordinance. The second comment is the board may wish to consider pedestrian mobility to and throughout the site. The area surrounding the site is heavily oriented towards automobiles. However, there is still a large number of pedestrians traveling by the site on a daily basis. This comment has a couple of different parts. One is a suggestion of adding textured or raised crosswalks to provide a safe and defined walking space for pedestrians that also act as a traffic calming device, slowing automobiles to a more reasonable speed. And the second is that it also appears that at least one of the handicap ramps does not match up with the proposed crosswalks on site by the exit from the drive-through. That has been corrected on this plan. It was slightly off angle on this crosswalk here, but the proposed crosswalks are, they like to see a raised crosswalk at this entrance connecting the existing sidewalks, as well as this entrance connecting the existing sidewalks, and this one also to be a raised sidewalk. I have spoken with the applicant. He is agreeable to working with the town to find out what exactly they want for a raised crosswalk, brick, stone, what they want to see in that area. There's really nothing for description on a type for texture or raised crosswalk. Currently, the plans had labeled them as a regular paint thermoplastic, so that they would be long-lasting. But the applicant is willing to work with the city on that. The second, about providing pedestrian access to the site. There are several existing sidewalks that run along the site, and we are providing 3 or 4 different connections to the existing sidewalks. We're proposing a new sidewalk here, which will connect into the existing sidewalk along Dutton Street that runs into the front of the building. Again, that existing sidewalk will also have connections at the front entrance here, as well as we're proposing to build a new sidewalk from the corner where the drive-through and the speed bump and the crosswalk are out to Fletcher Street, so that anybody that's coming from this way on Fletcher Street can cut through and come into the site and into the Dunkin' Donuts rather than coming out and around and having to worry about the drive-through traffic. They can cut across where the stop signs, the speed bump, and the crosswalk are, and this sidewalk can be maintained and kept clear during the winter time and during any other inclement weather by the applicant and the owner of the property. Comment number 3 is the board may wish to consider the traffic engineer's comments specifically regarding upgrades to the loop director and the pavement for Thorndike Street's inbound left turn lane green arrow. A relatively minor upgrade will improve traffic flow at this intersection along Thorndike Street, providing easier access to Dunkin' Donuts site. Again, I have spoken with the applicant, and he has agreed to work with the city on improving that loop connector so that it is functioning properly. Number 4, the board may wish to consider the city engineer's comments, which include the need for easements associated with the relocated sewer and water mains. Further, Dutton Ave, which provides access to the southern portion of the site, is still a public street and should be kept to city standards. The first part of that comment being the sewer and water easements is that the sewer and water lines are still city sewer and water lines that will be relocated through the property, and they will require new easements along those lines. We can provide updated plans that show the easements in particular and where they will be located. I have spoken with the city engineer. He has agreed to a 10-foot easement for the water main and a 20-foot easement for the proposed sewer line and the existing sewer line, obviously, that runs through the property. The second comment being the Dutton Ave, which is still a public street and should be kept to city standards, is this portion I mentioned previously is this short section of what's left of Dutton Ave. I understand it's still the shortest street in the city. The applicant has agreed to leave what's in the city layout the way it currently is, but we do believe that doing the adjustments to the entrance as well as narrowing the entrance down can provide, it helps to provide better traffic flow in and out of the site. It helps to improve safety. You're narrowing it down to 24 feet, which is 2 lanes, rather than almost 40 feet wide, which it currently is. And when you're having the traffic flow that you're going to be having in and out of the site with the Dunkin' Donuts being there rather than the car wash, it helps to redefine and narrow down your traffic patterns, and especially at the ins and outs of the area where you're going to be having truck traffic coming in and out. It is also my understanding that the owner of the property adjacent to it has a fenced gate in here that he does use to access his property. We can, if this is to be left as proposed on the plan, we can provide an entrance off of here for his use only so that he can go through and still access the gate. But as I said, if it is the board's desire to keep Dutton Ave the way it is, the applicant is willing to work around that and modify the entrance so that it works with the existing conditions on site. Comment number 5 is the city's health department and wastewater department are curious for how the grease from the bakery will be disposed from the site. They urge the applicant to work with the health department on designing not only the requirements for the grease trap, but as well as how you're going to remove the grease and anything else that gets into the grease trap off the site. We have spoken with the health department, and we have agreed to work with them during construction to make sure that it is designed and constructed to their desires and their needs. As I mentioned earlier, it's not a large flow that's going to be coming into the grease trap. It's only something that's going to need to be emptied 2 to 3 times a year. So it's not something that is where it's a large kitchen area that you're going to have to empty it once a week, a couple times a month. It's relatively small. Comment number 6, the plans note the removal of old railroad tracks from the parking area. DPD is wondering if the applicant has proper permission, and they urge additional research to make sure that there's compliance with all the processes during the construction of this project. Mr. Eliade spoke on that earlier and provided the board with written information regarding the permission for the removal of the railroad tracks, except for the portion that still remains within Dutton Ave. The next set of comments is from the transportation engineer. The comments on here, first is the curb ramps shall have detectable warnings according to ADA standards. That note has been added in the revised set of plans that the ramp shall have detectable warnings according to ADA standards. Simply, that's just a pad with raised bumps that are generally added at the end of the ramp prior to the crosswalk, so that somebody with a cane or it's just detectable by feel rather than some sort of sensible warning that can detect it with a cane, or you can feel it with the bottom of your foot. And the second comment was about the upgrading of the loop signal at the intersection, which we went over previously. Conservation has noted that the project is on the agenda for July 18th. Comments from the engineering department. His first comment is sheet 2 of 5. New drainage plan shows pipe entering canal wall. Permission needed to enter canal wall first, or this plan is no good. As I mentioned earlier, the drainage has been revised. Originally, the line came out and punched through the canal wall. We have since done some additional topo and location of the existing walls in this area. There's a break in the existing retaining wall along the canal, which part of the site currently drains out and out through that break and directly into the canal. That's what we're going to utilize for the outfall. We'll have a single outfall with a flared end and a riprap section, that will help slow down the velocity of the water prior to ending in the canal. And as I mentioned, this still needs approval from the Conservation Commission prior to construction. Second comment is about the sewer easements, which we went over earlier, and that these easements must be located by a surveyor and recorded by plan, which is something that will be done after approval. Third comment is about the Dutton Ave should remain to city standards in the way that it currently exists. We went over that previously. Last comment is about the labeling of Western Ave. Originally, the labeling of Western Ave was up in this area. The old Western Ave actually runs straight through here. That label has been corrected and added into that area. As I mentioned, we spoke with the water department, and we do have an appointment to meet with them tomorrow regarding the construction of the water main, how they want it constructed, what time of year they want it constructed, what monitoring they want, and as well as they also did request that we do some fire flow tests for the fire protection design, which will be required prior to doing the design. There were no comments from wastewater, Board of Health, or any other comments that we received. That is pretty much the basis to the project and where we stand at this point, including comments received by the town. And if there are any questions at this point, I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability, and Mr. Eliades and Mr. Marino here as well.
Thank you very much, sir. You're very thorough with the department comments. I appreciate that.
Very good.
Because usually we bring them up, but by hitting them first, it limits our questions to some of those issues. Thank you. Mr. Eliades, anybody else want to speak on behalf of the applicant before I turn it over to the public? No? Okay. At this point in time, I'll turn the matter over to the public. Anybody here like to speak in favor of this proposal? In favor? Just come to the microphone and state your name and address, please.
My name is Bob McKittrick. I represent my business, McKittrick Industrial Supply at 60 Fletcher Street. Over the past 10 years or so, we've watched the Acre neighborhood improve, starting with the Market Basket, new Stowe Closer School, and the renovations through the Adams Street, Suffolk Street area. And I think this project is a great asset to the neighborhood. I think we're all looking as property owners to see the neighborhood continue improving. Obviously, some of us have businesses that have finite lives, and we're looking for exit plans for our businesses, and this will do nothing but enhance the values of the neighborhood. I think it's as a gateway to the city, especially as you come down to the curve down Thorndike Street, it presents a great vista for people coming into the city. think it's one of the last areas that hasn't been developed, and I think it's just a great project, and I endorse it completely. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to speak in favor?
Hi, Don Kelly from the Ed Kelly Sheet Metal on Fletcher Street. Appears to me that these gentlemen are very sensitive to the area with this plan. I think it's great. I think it's a plus for the acre, a plus for Dutton Street and Fletcher Street. I hope you approve it and let them get going on it.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak in favor? Yes, sir.
Hi, good evening. My name is George Bertos. I am the owner of Lowell Janitorial Supply at 590 Dutton Street. I'm kind of in between. I'm very much in favor of improving the area. The project looks like a very worthwhile project. A year ago, we had a project before the city council, and we all came from all the businesses in the area and approved and supported it. The biggest concern we had was traffic at that time. At this point in time, you know, I'm in support of the project. I'm just concerned. We did go over some things this evening, and I think we have an understanding in place. My building, if you look at the project, is at the very end where Dutton Ave and Dutton Street meet. I'm landlocked. I have no parking, and I think we have an agreement in place tonight, if after discussing it with the parties involved, that they can accommodate my parking, because I have 5 full-time employees and 10 part-time employees. You know, the increased traffic is going to be great exposure for us, but at what cost to my business too? Because if I have a hard time parking in front, you know, like I said, I'm in the between. I like what I see, and I don't want to oppose it, and I like the people that are involved. I think we've gotten over our differences, and you know, I think there is, like what was brought up earlier about the gate on Dutton Ave, about narrowing it. Nobody seemed to know that there was a gate there until this evening when I brought it up. So there's a few unclear issues that I think we still need to sit down as a group in the business district. I know Bob's for it, and you know, Leonard Electric, everybody, Kelly, and I'm for the project. I just don't want it to be a detriment to my business. I've been there 24 years. We own other businesses in the city of Lowell, and you know, my concern is you know, I'd like to be able to sit down and see it a little more clearer than I did tonight. This is the first time I've really seen it as in detail as I have. So if I'm asking that the board take into consideration my existing business and my conditions, and I appreciate your help if possible. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in favor?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. Wish to be recorded in favor of this. It is one of the #1 gateways into the city and out of the city. Everyone has to, when they drive towards the connector or from the connector to Dunn Street, everyone sees that area, and it will certainly be an improvement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Spiro Lanatsas, 95 Marshall Avenue, Lowell. I want to go on record as saying I'm very much in favor of this project. And I might add that Dutton Street has been very dormant for years regarding any type of construction for any type of businesses. This project going in is going to be a tremendous asset to the area. And it's going to be a tremendous asset to Dutton Street and a tremendous asset to the city of Lowell. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, sir.
Michael Barbo, 200 Market Street. I am also very much in favor. As a downtown resident, I derive great pleasure from being able to leave my residence, walk to the post office, walk to Boarding House Park to see a concert. It'll be very nice to be able to walk to Dunkin' Donuts and get a cup of coffee. I'll shy away from the donuts, though.
Why not?
Secondly, that is an area that has been an eyesore. I've been living on Market Street since '93. I'm looking very forward to this project going through because it will be a great beautification of the area. And thirdly, I would also very much like to see the economic retail diversify outside of the nucleus that is downtown. So again, I think it's a great project, and I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
My name is David Gray. I live at 33 Briar Ave in Lowell. I work for Kazanjian Enterprises at 755 Dutton Street, and it could be recorded in favor of this. Our company's bought a few properties down in that area and in the process of rehabbing a lot of buildings down there, and I think this is a good positive complement to what's going on down there, and it's good to see people investing in the area down there, so I'd like to be in favor of the project.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
Good evening. My name is George Zaharoulis, 15 Dabby Way, Lowell, Mass. And I too feel very privileged to stand up before you to speak in behalf of this particular project. This is a very exciting area. Dutton Street is going to be a very exciting area. It's starting to turn around, and I think it also fits into the acre master plan. And if you look at that particular area, you now have the Lowell Sun building. You have other buildings such as previous speaker mentioned that people have come in to take care of those buildings, update them, and bring businesses into that area. And maybe it is an extension, or should be an extension to the downtown business district. It is a gateway into the city. There are traffic problems that are certainly going to be present. However, I'm sure that the traffic department is going to sit down and rethink the structure and the makeup of the roadways and kind of enhance the entryway in. Now that Middlesex Street is going to be turned into a two-way where you're going to have trucks coming down, if they come down the ramp, they cannot go straight across to Fletcher Street from Thorndike, Dutton. So that has to be looked at. This whole area, I think, is going to just blossom. And along with that, I also would like to indicate the economic development of having this project there is going to bring business people to sit down, have a cup of coffee, discuss business, and they're going to see what's on Dutton Street, and it's a great thing. Mr. Gendron mentioned at a previous meeting how he would like to see Western Ave open, and he's absolutely right. Open up Western Ave to Dutton Ave, and you have a nice loop that brings the traffic down around, and is another access to this area. And also egress from this area, because these streets should remain as two-way streets. If you only go one way, you cut down the visibility of these businesses that are starting to develop on Dutton Street by half, economically. So as an economic factor, Dutton Street, Thorndike Street, Fletcher Street, somehow there has to be a cut-through so it comes from the overpass down and straight into Fletcher Street. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Zaharoulis. Anyone else like to speak in favor of this project?
Excuse me.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good evening. My name is Ed McMahon. I reside at 71 Wynwood Road here in the city of Lowell. And I would like to be on record as being in favor for this project. I'd just like to touch on a couple of things. Only 2 years ago, I went to this area and I purchased a commercial building myself that I'm an abutter to this proposed plan. And I've enjoyed my short 2 years invested in this neighborhood with Mr. McKittrick and Mr. Kelly, Mr. Kazanjian, and the Skinsakis family that have the property there. I believe that bringing this into the area, and Mr. Elides had said this, when you look at the acre plan, and it's a very well thought out revitalization plan, they're trying to bring all business and industrial businesses to that lower Dutton, Rock, Fletcher area, and I think this is a great establishment, well-known establishment to have in that area. The other thing I'd like to say is that both gentlemen involved in this project I've known for a very long time, Mr. Marino and Mr. Skinsakis, and both of them are excellent businessmen. And I believe with the guidance from this board, you gentlemen and these parties involved can bring a great project to Lower Dutton Street. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. McMahon. Anybody else like to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody like to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. At this point in time, I'll turn it over to the board members to address any questions or concerns they may have. Any of the board members? Yes, Mr. Lockhart, if you'd like to begin, please.
I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Nate.
Down in the left-hand side of the, your drawing, you indicated you could break open a gate, or you could put a gate for an adjacent business there?
Correct. If Dutton Ave were to be altered as shown in the plan, we could add a break opening off the side so that the existing business here can still access their side gate, so they can still get in and out of the property as they need to.
All right, is that this gentleman's business back here? Didn't follow in the back?
This isn't your...
That's not my problem.
Okay, that's what his question was, okay.
All right. I'd like to know where that is too, but what is the nature of the business to the left? Do you know what that business is? I don't recall.
Maybe that gentleman will be able to speak better.
That's because the engineers do other parts.
Oh, it is? Okay, all right. So there's not a lot of impact from the traffic. Okay, my other question relates to the total building itself. Now, Dunkin' Donuts is not going to occupy this whole thing?
Yes, it is.
You're going to occupy the whole building? Oh, all right. I just assumed, looking at it, that it would be divided. And,
Just come to the mic if you could, please, sir. Thank you.
In due part, the reason why that building's become a little bit longer is the historic wanted 3 sides of the building glass, so it became the sales area, or where the customers would sit, it became increasingly larger. So the view in the front of the building is 3-sided. So as you're coming down Fletcher or the canal, you'd see
so
glass.
you're going to have a large seating area.
So that's why, yeah, so that's why everything got pushed back and it became that size.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lockhart. Mr. Fischett?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just some questions regarding the, to the right-hand side of that site, right along Fletcher Street. I know when you came for the pre-application hearing, there was some property, matter of fact, I think it was colored in to, we assumed it was actually part of the property, but it's not. And I believe it's city-owned land, is that correct? Is there, my concern is that we're going to landscape this beautifully, and then we're going to have this patch of land right in front. Is there anything that, any kind of a maintenance agreement or something that could be worked out?
Mr. Proakis probably could answer that for us, I think, because obviously we're willing to get involved in anything that will help beautify the front of that area there.
Right.
Because it's very important to us as well. I mean, when you come down, I think we all know that, when you come into town from the connector and come in Thorndike at that point, you're really getting a very clear view of our establishment right as you go in there. And we wouldn't want it blocked by anything that was unsightly either. So, I mean, I don't know exactly what rights we as abutters would have to do anything directly with the city property, but I'm sure Mr. Marino would be glad to engage in some sort of effort that would help to beautify the area there.
Because despite our best efforts as a community, there's so many islands and spots that if you don't have either neighborhoods involved to clean it up or some organizations involved to stay on top of it, it's just not going to be the caliber of landscaping and upkeep that this site is going to have, and I'm a little concerned about that.
I agree with you there, and I think it would be, I mean, if to the extent that we could try to deal with the city in terms of a park of some kind, I'm not saying my client could in and of him, on his own financially support something like that, but he'd certainly be willing to engage in a proportional share that would help.
Even to water a lawn and fertilize it and have it look nice compared to what
that we can do.
There. Yeah,
exactly. I'll do that on my way home.
Also, especially on site plan review, in section 6.1.9, and I can appreciate the fact that you're trying to juggle all the boards and serving several different masters trying to address landscaping concerns, but as a member of the board, I take great pride in making sure that this is incorporated into site plan review, and really not having the benefit of that here this evening. I guess as long as it, and Mr. Chairman, I guess when we come up with conditions, or depending upon how the rest of the board feels, but certainly I know in the past we've allowed the applicant to work with DPD to make sure that it is in compliance. I just would want to make sure we would adhere to that 6.1.9, because I don't see it with what we have in front of us. Having said that,
Jerry, just a suggestion on that is, if they do go to the other boards, we can request that they come back and let us see the final landscaping plan thereafter, so we know what, once it gets through the other plans, if the board feels comfortable with that, if the applicant has no problem, once he goes to conservation, once he goes to zoning board of appeals, once he goes to historic board, then if you want to come back and show us the landscaping plan.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't mind. I hate to add that
way,
extra
No,
layer.
no,
but-
that's fine.
We could cover that criteria under the site plan as well, and that way we would know exactly what it's gonna look like, instead of wait till it's built, and then as board members be guessing what we're gonna see when we drive by there when it's completed.
Exactly, thank you, thank you. I think the other items, once again, I compliment Nathan, the engineer, regarding the raised crosswalks, and agreeable to the loop in the traffic signalization. I think that's going to be key, obviously. Wherever a Dunkin' Donuts goes up, it seems to be very successful, and I think that comes with that comes the traffic and how it's going to flow out of that site. But I believe the comments from the traffic engineer would help to mitigate that situation. So at this time, Mr. Chairman, I have no further comments.
Thank you.
If I may, just to clarify one of your earlier questions, you're correct on when we came in for the preliminary, this area was shaded as green, and it was misinterpreted as part of the property. The property line, the edge of the right-of-way for Fletcher Street is currently this line right through here, and the green space is up to the edge of our property, just for a clarification for everybody else.
Thank you. Yes, George, if you could?
Sure. There are a number of arrangements that a city government can use to try to enter into some sort of maybe a memorandum of agreement or something, where we would encourage an applicant, if they would like to take over maintenance, even if that does mean just fertilizing and cutting the grass and making sure something like that is taken care of. It's better usually for their business. It's better for the city. The other thing that we can also work with in the same or a similar agreement is making sure that you have access rights to be able to construct that sidewalk on the city property that you have in the plan, which I also think is very important, as well as working, in addition to working with us on how we do the crosswalk connections. I do think having that sidewalk that does require cutting across the city property is important. If you look at the impact of the activity that is going on around here, take, for example, the Lowell Sun building and their close distance to this, I would not be surprised if a lot of people working there wouldn't mind dashing out and running over to Dunkin' Donuts and back, and we would like to encourage those people to walk rather than drive between those two driveways to get there. Similar to the activity, if you look, as Adam was talking earlier today about the courthouse that's going to be located in the Hamilton Canal District, likely to be right up on top of the Lord Overpass, not very far from here. That also may generate future walking trips to and from there. And there's some sidewalk problems, as well as Mr. Zaharoulis was pointing out, some driving problems on the overpass to be addressed. Hopefully the Hamilton Canal charrette process, the design review, and the public participation process will address some of those. But in the early connections, if we can make sure we have the sidewalk connection, we can make sure we have plowed sidewalks and some landscaping cleared and taken care of through there, that will go a long way towards addressing that, and we can work with an applicant on doing that if the board puts that into the approval process in this case.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Gentleman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So first of all, in general, I think this sounds like an excellent project that we need to work to make as good as it can be. But I don't see any reason why we shouldn't go forward with this effort, because I think it's going to benefit the city and benefit everybody involved. I was a little confused. Sounds like current, I wasn't here at the pre-application session, I apologize, but it sounds like the current land that's being leased has 3 separate owners. Is that true?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
I'm used to referring to you as Councilor Gendron, so I have to back off.
That's old news.
But anyway, it was incredible when I first went to the assessor's office to determine the ownership for notice purposes and whatever. There is actually a hodgepodge of lots there, as you can see. And what happened is, little by little, the Lanatzis family, which is right back here, took title to different parcels of land, made deals with the railroad, and got the property abandoned, etc. So though it appears as 3 different owners, it's really the same family, Mr. General.
I see, I see. And the property that's being leased, is that everything that's shown there in green? Is that all going to be?
Essentially, except as the gentleman from the janitorial supply indicated, if you look at the top of his, and maybe you could point that out, Nate, the left-hand portion of that property right there, just the building.
I see.
Is under his ownership. The rest of it is under the Lenatzes family in its entirety.
With the exception, of course, of the city street.
Of course.
Dutton Ave.
Right.
And what about Western Ave? Is that still a city street?
Western Avenue was abandoned.
Was abandoned.
By city council.
Okay,
vote,
and
right, so
somebody owns that now.
These folks.
That portion of Western Ave, anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a few more questions here. So you talked about the 25-car queue. So is that in one line? Or is that double line?
That's 25 cars in a single line from the drive-through to the end here. That does not count any stacking that they may try to do as a double lane.
I see.
In this, but it is 25 cars in a single lane.
Okay.
From the drive-through to the back entrance.
All right, that sounds good. Now, can you show me where Western Ave comes in on this property? From the other angle, actually, or either.
It might be easier to see on the existing. These 2 lines here denote the old location of Western Ave.
Okay.
So if you translate it to the site, it basically comes through like this.
I see. So you're including on that 25-car lineup a portion of what used to be Western Ave there, or what is still Western
Correct,
Ave?
a portion of that which was abandoned.
Okay. And that portion has been abandoned as well?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Another question, just curious. Is it typical to run drainage into the canal? Is that something that's done by a matter of course?
It's allowed if part of the site currently, the existing site currently discharges into the canal, which this portion of the site does. The existing drainage that's on the site, there's a couple of catch basins that were left over from the Western Ave layout that do pick up the majority of what the site is. Dumps into the combined sewer overflow system. With new construction, we're not allowed to tie into that. We have to remove the existing drainage and find a way to discharge it. We did some soil testing on the site to determine what was needed for underground infiltration. And with those testings, we determined the locations and the size of the system. The actual discharge into the canal by drainage calculations is only in the 25-year storm or greater. So the smaller, more frequent storms that you get are not going to have discharge into the canal.
I see. Okay. I'm sure that'll be covered by the Conservation Commission anyway. So my biggest concern with the whole thing is the traffic flow. You know, nothing changes the traffic flow like a Dunkin' Donuts, and I think that's going to be good for your business. But just thinking about heading down Thorndike Street, and you have the big curve there, it doesn't seem like there's a very big queue of left turn, for a left turn there onto Fletcher Street, which would then lead onto Dutton Street. And is that going to be part of the analysis with the light cycle as well?
The change that has been asked by the traffic engineer, traffic department to fix that cycle there, I think is part of what is supposed to be solving that problem. Maybe Mr. Proikis could shed some light on that, I'm not sure. Do you know, George?
Well, I know that the concern that was addressed by the traffic engineers for a light that is quite a ways up in front of the Gallagher Terminal entrance, but what that light does is it has a tendency to back traffic up during, particularly at 5 o'clock in the evening, all the way around the corner towards the Fletcher Thorndike interchange, because it's not giving enough green light for traffic to exit that area. And by speeding up traffic exiting that area, it offers more opportunity for traffic to clear away from the intersection. The question about the left turn access, I mean, one of the things that the traffic engineer can look at and that we regularly do is if this project or anything else increases the number of vehicles needing to take a left, and that requires allowing a longer or more frequent left turn cycle for traffic going in there, that is something that's pretty easy to readjust at a point in time where we either have new traffic counts or have have some base data on what the impact would be on traffic counts. I don't think all that would do is that would slow traffic leaving downtown coming around that corner, because they'd have a longer red to wait for people to turn left. And I don't think that has that much of an impact, because most of that traffic runs into a traffic problem another block further up. So by slowing them there rather than getting them stuck in traffic further up, I'm not sure that actually delays people's exit from town. So it is possible that we could have the traffic engineer, if you'd like, look at the length of the left turn and whether or not that needs adjustment to address people so that traffic doesn't start queuing too long at that intersection.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, people coming in to Lowell in the morning to go to work or whatever, and, the main access is really now Thorndike Street off of the connector. And, oh, Dunkin' Donuts, I need a coffee, so I want to take a left onto Fletcher Street. And, I don't know that lighting or that lane is set up to handle, a big increase in traffic. So I'm just thinking that it might be worthwhile sitting with the city engineer and trying to do an analysis of the traffic situation all around the site. I'd like to see that. It'd be nice if we had that now, but again, like Mr. Frechette was saying, if we could sort of make it contingent on doing a traffic analysis and making sure that intersection is going to handle the type of traffic this might generate, that'd probably be sufficient. The other thing, Mr. Zaharoulis must have been reading my mind over there, because I was thinking about Western Avenue. We had an issue come up several months ago now for the Artist Overlay District, which is behind here, and there seemed to be overwhelming support. In fact, I think it's the first standing ovation we ever got in the planning board when it was suggested that we look at the possibility of opening Western Avenue back up so that traffic could come out of Western Avenue onto Dutton Street and continue downtown. For me, it just makes an awful lot of sense rather than have that dead end there, and it would probably help business in that area as well. So I'm wondering if that can be part of a traffic analysis. Can we look at a scenario where maybe as part of this project, we can leverage this project to complete that Western Avenue and have it open up back up onto Dutton Street?
I think that what you saw tonight was a good representation of the business people in that area, and some good long-standing business people in the area who I think will be more than willing to work both with the city and with each other to try to accommodate that kind of a situation.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of chuckling here because I think I'm one of the old men in the crowd now, but I can remember when we used to worry about not having any traffic in the city and not having any cars around,
right.
And the council used to worry about how are we going to get more business downtown. So this is almost like a nice dilemma, and I know you're saying that in a way, but obviously we don't want to get people turned off to the ability to move through the city too. So to the extent that I think that that's important, yes, absolutely. And to the extent that my client, and I think I can probably speak in a sense for, I certainly got the sense from the other business people who were here, they'd like to find every way possible to solve that dilemma too.
Okay. Yeah, and I think you're right. Having to deal with traffic and parking downtown is a good problem to have. It's kind of like taxes. But so I would like to add on as a contingency that we have a traffic analysis done and set up the traffic flow here so that it accommodates the increased traffic flow we can expect from this establishment, and also with an eye towards opening Western Avenue back onto Dutton Street, see if that's possible.
Well, to the extent that we can have our own traffic people work with the city traffic people, absolutely, we'd be glad to do that.
George, is that something that you think is feasible?
Well, it's actually, I believe it's written in the zoning within the confines of site plan review that it's within the planning board's right to ask for additional traffic analysis. So that certainly makes it feasible. I think that what may be most productive as a way to handle that is to have the applicant's traffic folks and our traffic engineer sit down and sort of look at what the key spots are that this project could impact and what the interactions would be on it. So, for example, just studying the existing light timing at Dutton Fletcher, and then looking at what the impact of adding X number of cars to that timing would be and whether or not it suggests you should retime that light is something that's a pretty straightforward analysis. It makes a lot of sense. We can report back to the board with it. They can certainly also look at the opening of Western Avenue and Dutton Street. It is something that I understand it makes a lot of sense. It's a very complicated process because it involves dealing with the railroad and the crossing that's not easy to just make happen, but I'm sure that their traffic folks and ours would be happy to look at the impact and what that would do to help access around the business area. I'm not sure if it will completely make the case to the railroad people who need to participate in the process and be able to do that. It's a long process to do that, but certainly, you know, as far as looking at light timings and looking at traffic counts and where it goes, that's something we can do collaboratively with them and bring a report back to the board later if that would be applicable.
Yeah, no,
I didn't understand that you were going to impose it as a condition per se on my client and his project, but I meant it from the standpoint that to the extent that we could volunteer to participate, as you can see, there are constraints that would stop us from even if we had the perfect answer, being able to take care of that. But to the extent that we can work with the city and the traffic department and the neighborhood, if that were put in as a recommendation of the board, I think it would certainly be helpful and something useful that we would work with.
Yeah, I think the only condition would be that you work with the city engineer and implement any changes that he suggests to handle the traffic in the area. I'd also like to see us, even if we can't, you know, open Western Avenue now as part of this effort, maybe we can set up the site to accommodate future opening of Western Avenue, because it sounds like there are several steps that we have to go through to make that a reality.
Unfortunately.
That's all I had.
Thank you, Mr. Genman. Mr. Clement?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just very briefly, I think the project is a great project. I'll congratulate the applicant and his team on a job well done. I think you did your homework and you answered the questions that needed to be answered, and I think it'll be a fantastic addition to the city. Just a couple of questions more out of curiosity than anything else. The restaurant itself, what is the seating capacity within the facility? Sit down.
For the record, by the way, this is Brian Marino, that I introduced you.
Yeah.
The entire inside is being ongoing right now, but typically 25, 24 seating, depending on how the layout actually gets configured. We
That's
needed
the
to go through the
typical
historic
size.
first to figure out the building first, and then now we're working in to accommodate that.
I'm very impressed with the size of the queue. I don't think you have many Dunkin' Donuts that have the ability to line up 25 cars, so that's great. You'll be able to get the traffic off the street there. So I have no other questions. I think it's a great project. Thank you.
I just have a couple of questions. I think, as indicated earlier, the main thing would be if we could just see a finalized landscaping plan, as Mr. Fischett said, after you get a review of the other boards, if you can bring it back, just to give it back to us and let us have some input. I know a lot of times we leave that for DPD, but I think something on this size, I think, might welcome some of our own input, whichever positive or negative may be. But I think basically just to give us some idea, and I know some of the ideas that might be brought up in other boards could be reflected upon what our concerns are, but basically we could see those back here. And I think also, by working with DPD, we can work out the crosswalks and the curbing around there. The question that comes out with the maintenance of the property in the front, I know a lot of places in the city we have, you know, adopt an island. I don't know if something like that would be able to work here. George, do you think something like that can work? I know, we see the boxes, people's names on it, adopt an island. I know Dunkin' Donuts, I think, has somewhere else in the city. If I remember correctly, over by Church Street, I think they might have one. So, you know what, they just want to put just an idea, because I see a lot of them, and you put your little advertising sign right on there, let them know that you're cleaning it up. If something like that might work, working with the city, I mean, just to keep the grass cut to that nature, maintain it. But I think that would help. I think Mr. Gentleman brought that up, but just Mr. Fischett just clears it up nicely, keeps it neat, and that way I'm sure the city won't give you too much of a problem if you want to clean it up instead of sending a crew over there. I think the question with the traffic, I know it's going to be a big question, but I think a lot of it's going to also spin off once you get the Hamilton Canal District in there. I think when the cities, I know they're looking at all that, as Mrs. Arula said, changing the streets, and some of that, the way it comes down now off Middlesex Street, will affect your project, hopefully for the better. So I think when that comes into play, I think working with the engineer, some of it, you might have some good ideas now, but once they come into place, could be back to the drawing board almost, per
We'd
se.
we'd love to have a bridge over the, over the connector from Hamilton and the Justice Center into our
Yeah, sure.
area. It'd be perfect.
And even a little drive-through for the train. I
Little,
mean,
yeah, absolutely.
But
Nice walkway where people could go out for
Sure.
lunch and.
So I think, you know, the traffic would be an issue down there, but I think a lot of it's gonna be how that canal project works out, and Hamilton Canal Project. So I think by working with this city on the traffic issue would be a definite benefit to your project as well as the city. And it
Absolutely.
may change as the Hamilton project goes along, depending on, I know what their intent is, who to get in there, but sometimes it doesn't always work out exactly who they want.
Well, I agree, Mr. Chairman. That's the other reason why I mentioned all the other people in the neighborhood, because it's worth it to them as well. That's what
And
makes
and
good
I agree,
business.
they could open
and
up Western Ave, as everybody said before, that's an issue for the city to look at, and I'd be more than welcome, you know, with the board members here go in favor and say that we're definitely in favor of that. And if there's anything we could ever do, if they need a recommendation to come forward, I know the board has echoed that in the past when we've seen other developments, but all in all, I think you have a pretty good project there, a good site. I know when it came in the preliminary, my main concern was basically the access getting in, getting out. Obviously, if you can't get in and out to a site of that nature, it's gonna affect your business. I think the way you set up the plan and tried to address all the comments, I think you did an excellent job, as I mentioned earlier, in addressing all the department heads' concerns, and you won't work with the city on everything that we suggested. I applaud you for that, and I thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just a word about that. I don't see why the adopt an island sort of concept can't work here, and we'll look into that. I see how that works, how the city departments manage that, and see if that might be an appropriate format for
Just a suggestion, I don't know.
addressing those situations. Another thing, to point to Mr. Lice's point about the pedestrian overpass, the National Park Service does have a pedestrian overpass designed to go over the whole Lord overpass to connect their canal walks, and it would land just across the Pawtucket Canal from you, and on the other side it would land pretty much right next to the area of the start of the Hamilton Canal site and somewhere around where the Judicial Center may be. So that may build your connection someday.
Well, a long time ago, Mr. Proakis, when I served on what they call the Lowell Historic Board at that time, we came up with the idea of a couple of walkways across the canal from the Lowell High School to the new annex. And at first, they all thought we were nuts, and I think if you look at the situation, it blends in very well, the old and the new. It certainly makes for movement back and forth much more efficiently. I don't know that we could ever do something exactly like this, but who knows? With the right amount of input from state and other authorities, you might find something like that. We'd love to have it, because from a business standpoint, it would also be great.
Well, there's something similar that's designed but unfunded, and as part of the discussion of how things work around Hamilton Canal, I'm sure how that all fits will be in that discussion as well.
Any further questions from the board members? If not, entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to approve with conditions. And while my colleagues were coming up with all the great ideas, I was writing feverishly, so I hope I got them all. That when you've completed your run through the other boards you need to go to, that you bring the plans back here to Planning Board for review and approval of the landscaping plan and any modifications that may come to your plans. That you install textured raised crosswalks and work with the DPD concerning the materials to be used on the crosswalks. That you upgrade or repair the loop detectors for Thorndike Street. Comply with the city engineer's comments in his June 29th, 07 letter. Obtain health and wastewater approval of the grease disposal plan. That your curb ramps have ADA warnings. Comply with water utility comments pursuant to the letter dated July 2nd, 2007. Obtain fire department approval and work with the city regarding the traffic concerns, as Mr. Gendron was indicating. What's the one before that?
What's it? After you said comply with the city engineer's comments.
On the June 29th, 07 letter.
Okay.
And health and wastewater approval of the grease disposal plan.
Right.
That the curb ramps have ADA warnings.
Yep.
Comply with water utility comments from their letter July 2nd, 2007. Obtain fire department approval and work with the city regarding the traffic concerns.
I have a couple other notes here, and I just want to address them and see if they're addressed in your concerns. Basically, we're looking at having the landscape plan and the crosswalks done after the other pieces are done. DPD will take a look at it, and then we'll come back to the planning board to show you how that all worked.
Yes.
They'll do the loop detector. We'll establish some sort of agreement to address the sidewalk on city land and the cleanup of that. Is that okay?
Yeah.
The engineer asked for an easement plan. I guess that's included in their June 29th letter, so that's addressed there. And they addressed some concerns about what to do about Dutton Avenue. I think they wanted it left wider. These folks had the narrower design set up, and I don't know if there's a direction you'd prefer to do there. The grease trap approval, the maintaining city land, and the traffic. Okay, that's everything I've got. So.
Okay. Motion made on the floor. Any discussion?
Can I just have a clarification, Mr.
Sure.
Chairman? I just want to make sure the condition with the sidewalk and the public right-of-way, that's addressing also the landscaping or maintenance of that front portion?
Sure.
I just want to make sure. Is that, Judge?
Yeah. So we incorporate that as part of that landscaping plan. We'll incorporate that landscaping plan with the maintenance on the front.
To the extent that it's our property.
Right.
So when it comes back to us for the landscaping plan, we'll have an answer whether how it's going to be maintained, if you're going to be able to do it with the city or whatever.
Covering the whole site and whatever deal we can.
So we'll pick up that piece in the front as well. To see how they can work with them to come back to us.
As I said, Mr. Chairman, the extent it's our
Right.
property.
Yeah.
Well, I understand.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the width of the Dutton Avenue issue you'd like to leave to be addressed between them and the city engineer? Because they have somewhat
Whatever they're
contradictory comments,
comfortable
but
with.
if we'll just settle that between and then come back with
Sure.
that
If any
answer
questions,
when we
bring
come
them back
back with
before us.
everything else. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Discussion?
I'll second the motion, and I'll ask that we also ask the applicant to return with the traffic plan after discussion with the city, return with the results of that discussion and what is intended to handle the traffic situation.
And we will volunteer to do that, absolutely.
Is the motion made in second? All in favor, say aye.
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 Chair
Aye.
vote yes. I want to thank all the people who come down and speak of tonight on behalf of this application. It makes our job a lot easier when we get the input from the people who work down there on a daily basis. Thank you very much for coming down. I appreciate your help. Thank you. Good luck with your project.
We thank the board as well. We appreciate your efforts in
That's a
helping
nice
us.
project.
And we think we're going to have a great project for you.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
It's a nice project. Nice project.
Moving along, that closes our public hearing. Moving along, what we have next is new business, and this matter is for 8, 14, and 26 Highland Street. This is what we have at the pre-application session. The following individuals have requested the planning board to provide a preliminary review of their proposed project at the address listed below. These are not public hearings. Each project will require a public hearing at a future date. The planning board renders no decision or guarantees any further decision, whether positive or negative, on any project that receives pre-application review. The review process is for information purposes only. This project is located as indicated on 8, 14, and 26 Highland Street. The applicant is Mr. John McDonough. Project expansion of existing funeral home. The zone is TMF and UMU and requires a site plan review. May we hear the case for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, before you begin, if I could, I do need to recuse myself
Okay.
from this issue. Thank
So
you.
Mr. Bishop will not be participating in this discussion. Thank you. May we hear from Mr. McDonough, please?
My name is Tim Scotto from Clarence Engineering, and I'm here to speak on behalf of John McDonough and Jeff McDonough, owners of McDonough Funeral Home. now, we have 3 lots that are common ownership. Here is Highland Street here, South Street, this is where Elm Street comes in. And the current buildings on the property are the funeral home right here. There are garages, 2 garages on the properties. There's better? So as I was saying, there are 3 lots in common ownership, with the funeral parlor being 1 building. There's 3 garages here and in another dwelling, and there is a shed in this area. Currently, the funeral home itself is on its own lot here, and you can see the other lot line coming right down the middle here. The zoning line also is right down the property here, where we have TMF over here and UMU over here. The existing building right now houses all of the funeral home offices and the residents. And let's see. What the owners would like to do is they'd like to separate some of the services that they provide in the in this one building, and they'd like to spread out a little bit. So you can see the existing building is here, with a proposed addition here shown in dark blue, and this is going to be a proposed garage. There is 1 garage that will be taken down. The property line as part of this will be relocated approximately 53 feet in this direction to bring all of the funeral parlor property onto 1 lot, and leaving another lot here. All lots will meet the zoning requirements with this plan shown. As I said, the owners would like to separate the business a little bit, where they want to have conference areas and office in this space. They would have the viewing parlors in this area, and then they would also have a second floor where they would add another residence. So there would be 2 residences, 1 on top of the existing building to remain, and 1 here. There's going to be a garage that'll be located here. It'll be a drive-through, completely through, so it'll be there for the convenience of patrons during foul weather. And changes to the site include a small increase in the impervious area because there's already some driveways and a garage. The additional building is going to increase the impervious area a little bit. There will be snow storage back here and around the lot. All the parking requirements are met. We have some preliminary floor plans, and for our floor plan we have right now, this shows to meet all the parking requirements. If there's any changes to the floor plan, we can accommodate a few more spaces, and we don't have any concerns over meeting the parking requirements. And that's pretty much I have for right now. I'd like just to have some comments from the board about maybe what we should look at for the application.
Are you creating any more curb cuts out onto Highland Street?
No, the existing entrance and exit will remain to have a flow of traffic in this direction. This is going to be a carport also for wakes, so they can unload in foul weather.
All right, so there's just that 1 entrance into the back.
Entrance, exit.
Oh, that's the exit.
That's correct. Exit there. Yeah.
Okay,
Entrance.
all right, all right. Okay, I see.
What is the square footage on the smaller of the 2 lots here? Do you know?
The remaining
in the new plan.
will end up being about 35,000 square feet.
35,000 square feet?
The lot, right?
The smaller of the 2 lots here?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, that's 35,000 square feet?
Yeah, just under an acre. Well, we got 100 feet here, and it's 359 going back, so.
And the property here, or the building, these 2 buildings on the bottom here are going to be demolished? Is that right?
There are 3 garages currently on the property.
okay.
This one is within the footprint of the proposed addition, so that one obviously will have to come down. This one will remain and it'll become part of this parcel here, and it'll be used as part of the business here. This one will remain with the residential lot.
Oh, okay. I see, yes.
And you can see here the proposed relocated lot line. It's got a little jog in it to match the setbacks.
Mhm. And the traffic, excuse me, the traffic flow will remain the same? Come in on the one entrance and exit on the other entrance?
More or less, if there's specific concern about on-site traffic flow, I'd have to have Mr. McDonough address that, but it appears to be generally the same with, one way in.
One way in,
Being
one way
able
out.
to come around the building. There's a pass-through, obviously, so that if you don't have to go through the garage.
Right.
Steve, I believe the traffic will be the same. I was up there today walking the site with both the McDonoughs, Mr. McDonough and his son, who I met this afternoon about 4 o'clock. Basically, when you come in, the traffic there, it'll go and it'll turn around and come back. Where they showed here before, can I just see your other plan for a second? Not the blue one. There's a cement, that red piece behind the house. Could you show the part that's going to be torn down? The garage, right there, yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So basically, the traffic comes in, it goes behind that, and comes back up and goes back out to the street. So that there is like a old cement building, which is for parking. So they're going to knock that down, bring it closer up to the back, to it'd be abutting the existing site that's on there. So all the parking, when you come in, to the left will still be there. The paved driveway that comes down the site goes behind that cement building there now and loops around, comes back up, with all of them maintain the same. What Mr. McDonough was indicating to me is you come up the front of the steps are pretty steep in the front. So a lot of the people, he said, never come in the front door. So they try to come in the side where it's just a small step, especially if you have people who will have a harder time walk up the steps, a little bit older. So that's why he wants to try to do it on the side. So he says maybe 2% of his people use that front door.
Sure.
And I know from being in the past myself, I think I've used the front door once. Usually, since he acquired the zone change about 10 years ago, I remember, because it came before us for recommendation. To the left, he picked up all that additional parking. Most people park there and go through the side now instead of the front. And I noted all that other parking. We didn't have the problem with anybody parking on the street. When I did mention that today to the applicant, he said usually he doesn't have much problem with that because across the street's the school. So you don't have the problem with, he has enough parking to pick up the site, but not like most of all the wakes that they have, the school's already closed.
Yeah.
So I know some people have parked across the street at the school, more so before he added that whole new parking site. So by at least looking at it today, I could see that he does have a lot of property up there. And when you ask how big the other side is, it's huge. I mean, the other garage goes way back. I mean, it's a big piece of property. And so what he's gonna do is, because when I saw the plan, I wasn't 100% sure, but by actually looking at it, whole parking layout beside the sign, he's just gonna put it right where the back is and cut down near the building. But I think he has to come before us because of the size of the addition, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, it's gonna be over 10,000 square feet probably.
Yeah.
And that's why it comes, that's what triggers the site plan review.
Right, there's, under that, I don't know, George, 11.4.2 or something, I think there's 3 conditions. We're gonna meet one of them.
Yep. So at least now it'll be attached, and he was saying that way they could do office services and one thing and still have services going on, but sometimes they come in now, some of the people who are doing business there are actually seeing the people who are paying their respects, and he wants to try to separate that to give people a little more privacy. But he does have a lot of land up there. I mean, if you look at it.
Football field from the road to the back lot there.
Yeah, I mean.
And then some.
Yeah, and that's why I looked, and I walked all the way behind there, and I walked on the driveway in the site, and he was explaining to me how all that traffic part was gonna stay the same, so. But it is, like you say, you see it from the street, you look at it, you know it's big, but you don't realize how deep it really goes back. And then when he indicates how deep it is, I could tell it went back with distance, but I didn't know how long it was. But it's way back there. It's a good size. I mean, 2 lots combined, it's huge. Any of the board members? Joe, you have any questions?
Yeah, just briefly, when you move the property, when you move the property line over to where it's going to be, where's the parking for that existing dwelling on the left?
There will be,
Which about the new one? Yeah, there you go.
parking here beside the building. There is a garage, and there's an area here. So we do have some area in here and the
Right.
garage.
There's a bunch of parking there, that's where I parked today, actually.
And the egress for that existing dwelling then is across the other lot and out, am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, so is it the intention, if you know, that these lots will always be maintained in common ownership to, or some sort of an easement?
Well, that's...
If that property would be
right now,
sold
it
off?
is going to be held in common ownership, so I don't know if Mr. McDonough can speak to any future plans or any access or egress from the other dwelling.
Question, Mr. McDonough, is basically the egress coming in and going out. If the entities were to change and not be the same ownership, how would you get in and out of the project?
The ownership of the property is going to stay the same as long as my sons want to stay in the business with me. The issue is my son Jack's getting married, okay? So the building to the left, the building that's closer to the Keith Academy side, shall we say, okay?
So if you look at this site, it would be to the right.
Right.
From the street.
I'm living there now with my wife. It's gigantic. And my son, we're going to let him move in there. I'm going to move over the new facility that they're going to help us, that you guys are going to help us build. And nothing's going to change at all. I mean, I don't plan on selling anything. I need all the property that I have. We do have a luxury of, we got a swimming pool back there and plenty of room for grandchildren should they decide. And so we like to live happily ever after right where we are right now.
No pressure, though.
Right. And so far as my house, which is the one to the left, my wife's got her own parking spot outside. It's labeled the Queen.
I noticed down over there today, it said the Queen's Parking, it was a big double spot.
And, yeah, so there's plenty of room, but if you guys make time to take a walk around up there, I'll be glad to walk around the property, but don't plan on changing anything.
Yeah. If you ever did sell off that lot separately, which you could, it's certainly big enough to do that, you'd have to give them some sort of an easement to cross the other lot to get out to the street.
Or they could have they could petition for a curb cut on the western side of the property and drive out the other side of the property. There's enough, I think there's probably, I don't know, 25, 30 feet there between my my house and the apartment house next door.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I think that's true, but, you know, I think anybody that would want to buy that property obviously is going to have to deal with that issue. Either they're going to have to give them an easement, or they'll have to provide for another exit from the property,
Yeah,
so...
so they were gonna sell off one of the entities, either the business or...
Right.
Then they'd have to make, you know, be able to get in and out one way or another, either by the easement or pick up their own curbing on the other side of the property.
Right. What's on the, I guess that's the southern side, is that another lot over here, or is there a street over here? On the bottom of the...
This right here or down here?
Down there where you are now. Is that other lots?
Yeah, it looks like they're, I don't know, can you speak to that? You know your neighbors behind you here?
To the left? Oh,
Those are
behind
that's
you.
Burn Street. Burn Street, dead ends there. South Highland Street, take a right on the top, that's Burn Street, come to the backyard.
So there's, you could potentially enter from that? No?
No intention to do that right now, but
No.
It's had been talked about in the past. We had developers approach us to sell off that portion of the property and build houses up there, because Burn Street was right there. And never had the need, so we just always abandoned that plan. Right now, there's about 200 trees in that particular, besides the big garage, over by the apartment house towards Burn Street, there's about 200 trees.
So when you said exit on the western side, you're talking about, as we look at it here, to the left of that house? Yeah.
The western side is right there, and where I was pointing right now, you could put, if we were to sell it, and we wanted to utilize the funeral home just the way it is, then would petition to put another curb cut in, and they could exit to the western side of the building if they had to.
Which would be give them their own driveway, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
But there's no plans for that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So to indicate, this is a preliminary plan, so this is basically for some basic feedback. If it comes back for site plan, then obviously the plans will be given to all the department heads with comments coming back and be open for public hearing. So, any further questions from the board members at this time?
No.
Good luck, and hopefully we'll see you back with the site plan and with further comments.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we'll see you on
Thank
the 13th, hopefully.
Okay, thank you. Moving along into old business, we have a bond reduction request for O'Hare Way Estates. Gazange Enterprise, Inc. is requesting a board reduction for work completed to date on O'Hare Way Estates. The planning board is currently holding a bond in excess of $100,000 for the completion of the work at this development. All site work has been completed to date, except general roadway cleanup, submittal as-built to the city engineers department, and final legal description. The applicant requesting the reduction of the bond to $9,000, the amount determined to complete the remaining work. May we hear from the applicant, please? You here for this? I know we have a thing in our packet.
We're requesting, right now, the bank holds $140,000 in a bond for that.
How much they holding?
$140,000.
140, okay.
We're requesting that down to $9,000 based on the remaining work that has to be done. And one of the things was the catch basins had to be cleaned out. Those were actually cleaned out on Friday up there, and they're working on the final surveying work for the as-built, and that's pretty much the end of the project that's left to be done.
So we do have a worksheet here indicating what has to be done. And what did you say, Dave, what was done?
They cleaned out the catch basins,
the
the bottom of the
basins,
catch,
okay.
yeah. And they are working on the, Meisner Brem's working on the final surveying work for the site, for the as-built.
So we have a subtotal, then we have a contingency, and a total remaining of 9,000. And you say we're holding 140,000?
Yeah, the bank's holding 140,000 bond for it.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
if I may.
Go ahead.
This bond worksheet, is that completed by the applicant or by the city?
That worksheet that you're looking at is actually provided to us by the city engineer's office. It's their recommendation for this particular case.
So the city...
I'm sorry, their recommendation is at $9,000 a subtotal in the contingency. Is that correct?
Right. Their recommendation is that there was $7,200 worth of work left to be completed, and adding a contingency, which is always their recommendation, is to hold $9,000. And that is based upon the strategy that would be what it would cost the city to do this work
Rectify the problem. Yep.
if it didn't occur. But the applicant has done
That's
everything
fine,
but that at this point.
So Dave, you have no problem with the 9,000 as proposed by the city?
That's fine.
Okay. Any of the board members have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I had a question, and it may not be relevant to this issue, but I'm curious about the drainage up on that new development. I had heard that there are a number of issues down on Alcott and out on Miriam Lane about drainage from the site. Any of that being addressed, or do you even see that as an issue?
We have addressed any concerns that the neighbors had. It was existing concerns that were there before the project. We've actually alleviated a lot of the drainage problems that were going down there with the extensive drainage system we put in there, state-of-the-art underground tank system that was put in there. Mm-hmm. And there was an existing problem there, but we are working with the neighbors that have any problems there to, rectify any problems that we created, if there was anything that was created from the site.
Mm-hmm. And does this money that we're releasing, does any of that go toward that effort, or is this different?
That's totally different.
Separate. Okay. Thanks.
Yep.
If I may on that, I did have the opportunity sometime probably in springtime when busiest rains were out there to meet with one of the neighbors on Alcott Street who was having some issues with water effects on their driveway that occurred since the project was built, and we kind of went back and forth in discussing the possibility of what the impact of that could be and whether or not the project related to it and how underground water may have shifted in the area. My suggestion to them at the time was if the problems continued and if they had issues and they couldn't settle it with the developer, that they could always write to the planning board. They have not done so since. I don't know. I haven't heard from them since, so I'm not sure if that means their problems are solved or their problems continue or what, but that's the only interaction I've had down there since the project has been built. There is the one long-term concern that just needs to be addressed by the owners of the site, and we've set up the association and the activities there in such a way to do this, is to ensure that the drainage system that does sit under one of the lots there does remain cleaned out, because that does capture the drainage from from all of that area. The overflow of that drainage is into the source system, that drain system that then runs down to the end of Windward Road. So it is important to make sure that the owners on that site, after the developer leaves, continue to clean that site out, because that would have an overflow impact if they don't clean the catch basins in that area on a regular basis. And
That's
they
by the
should
top
be
of the
aware
site by
that.
Clark Road.
Yes.
Coming in on the left.
Yes, that's the lot on the left that's got the big lawn in front of it.
Behind
That
the one that
drainage
burnt.
system sits.
Behind the house that burnt.
Yes, that drainage system sits on that lot, and that's something that the board as well, board members who were here when that was approved are well aware of the fact that the continued maintenance of that is an important key aspect. As a maintenance book, the owners should be aware of the fact that it's necessary to make sure they keep care of that, because that would impact the drainage in that area.
Yeah, I remember we spent a lot of time on that question when it came before us that night, and I remember that even the city engineer said that was the best drainage system he's ever seen.
Yeah, they actually, a national magazine actually did an article on.
Because I called him on it prior to the meeting and asked him personally what his thoughts were, and I remember him telling me, he said it's an excellent drainage system like everything else, as long as it's maintained, you'll be fine. And I know the question down on Merriam Lane, some of that water was there prior to the project starting, and as a result, it's better than it was. That's my old paper route neighborhood, so I know. Yeah. So what we have before us is a request for bond reduction.
I'd make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve the bond reduction to $9,000 and release the balance to the applicant.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes.
Thank you very much.
That is approved. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thanks.
Moving along, I'd like to get back to the minutes that we postponed from the beginning of the meeting. And we have 3 sets of minutes. And let's see. We have the May 21st minutes. Any of the board members have any questions or concerns on?
Yeah, I have both a question and a concern, I believe, on those minutes. On page 7, when we get to the point of the motion, there was a lot of discussion that evening about the driveway, and they hadn't settled on where the driveway was going to be. And I believe the condition was, when they were settled on where the location of the driveway would be, that the applicant would bring the plans back to us. It wasn't necessarily conditioned, to my memory, that the driveway be in excess of 200 feet. I mean, any driveway in excess of 200 feet, they have to bring back anyway. But I believe we imposed it as a condition so we could determine where the location was in response to an issue raised by Ms. Nichols, who had some sort of an agreement with them prior to conveying the property, that the plan be a certain way and then the driveway was going to be moved. So my point is, I think in the motion, I don't believe it was conditioned that the driveway be in excess of 200 feet for the applicant to bring it back to us. I think when they determined the location of that driveway, no matter what the length was, they were going to bring it back to us. That was my memory, anyway, of that condition.
Steve, do you remember that? You
Yes,
remember that motion?
I agree with that. They expected to have to come back to us because they expected the driveway would be in excess
I
of
believe
200
they
feet.
said there's no way they can get it in without being 200. It was
Right.
represented by Attorney Flood.
But the condition was not that they come back if it was 200 feet. The condition was they come back and talk to us regardless of the length.
So that's the condition on motion number 4?
Yes.
I know, George, you weren't here for that meeting. Understand what they're trying to modify?
I understand, yeah, the fourth condition, which said that they should come back if the driveway was in excess of 200 feet, which they would have to do anyway.
Right.
You really meant to say that any driveway location should be brought back before the board before they go forward with construction. It's a little bit of a challenge in this because it's written, I'm sure it's written the same way in the meeting actions and in the decision letter that's been filed with the clerk's office, but assuming, and I don't think it should be an issue, that the applicant was aware of the same issues, they were here, you were here, and I'm sure they all saw the same thing. So I will We can follow up and inform the applicant that we want to file a modified decision letter as well and adjust that in both the decision letter and the minutes. So we'll.
I know it was quite clear,
check
because
up
even
on
Attorney
that.
Flood said he had to come back anyways.
I don't, I can't imagine if he was here and he heard it that way too, I can't imagine they would have any issue with that. So we'll take the actions necessary
So we'll make a
to do that.
modification on item 4 for that motion. Any board members have any other questions on the May 21st minute?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just before that set of motions, there's a comment by me that seems to stop and not finish the thought.
With conditions?
Conditions of with restriction, I don't remember saying that, actually. Conditions of with restrictions that the subdivision is removed. The lot only has construction of the... I have no idea what that means. I don't remember saying it, but regardless,
Fell
it's not...
asleep at that point.
It's not, yeah, I must have nodded off.
Yeah. I think it was basically the condition that the old subdivision has to be removed, and I think you picked it up here in the motion, if that's the way I remember it. But
Okay.
I
Well,
made condition with restriction of the subdivision. So-
If we can just modify the minutes to reflect that, that would be fine.
We can do that. That's fine.
Okay. Anybody else have any? If not, I have one minor one. Right above that, when it has T. Linehan, it says, I think it's one entrance will cut down on future disputes. I put down, I think if 2 entranceways would cut down on future disputes. What they want to do, they want to come in with a common driveway, George? So I just made a suggestion that when they had that big a side of lot, you have over 58,000 square feet on one lot and 20-something on the other.
Yeah.
So the only thing I suggested was if they could each have their own driveway to cut down on future disputes. So he puts down, I think 1 entranceway will cut down on future disputes. I just said if you had 2 entranceways, it would cut down on future disputes. That's all.
Okay, sure.
I know we have it in the plans that's allowed to put, you could share a common driveway.
Right.
My question was, it's nice if you have that much square footage of land, to have your own driveway.
Right, okay.
That was the only one I had on those. Anybody else have any more questions on the May 1st minutes? If not, we can make a motion to approve as amended.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the May 21st, 2007 Planning Board minutes as amended.
Second?
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Moving along, we have the June 4th. I know we also have a letter in our packet from Attorney Flood making a question on what we did on the motion on page 4 under 76 to 80 Rogers Street. I know we will address that shortly. Does board members have any other comments regards to those minutes?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, on page 3, near the bottom of the page, there's a comment, a quote from me that says, I'm most concerned with the congestion. My biggest concern is about the number of units. Then it says, I am happy to see you have addressed the board's concerns, which kind of implies that I'm happy about the congestion on the site. And I just would not like the record to reflect that, because my point was that my biggest concern is the congestion. They made a slight reduction to the number of units, but I was happy to see that they addressed the other concerns that the board has. But I still held the concern about the congestion at that site. So I would like the record to reflect that.
Do you understand that, George?
Yes, I did. I will, basically adding the word "other" in that sentence will make that make a lot more sense.
Yeah, and if you could also add the sentence, and you may want to look at the tape or something to see exactly what I said, but I think I said something about the fact that I still have the concern about the congestion there. They did make a minor concession in that area. Please.
Right, okay.
Now getting back to page 4, where the motion was, this motion was made by Joseph Claremont. I guess the questions were on 1 and 2. We have an Attorney Flood, the applicant, that indicated that he wasn't sure if we made the question that this will not require an additional public hearing, but must occur prior to the issuance of a building permit, and that is in number 1 and 2. And I know they sent a letter to Mr. Claremont in regards to the make of the motion. Joe, do you want to be heard on that before we go further, or?
Yeah, I did review that, and although I don't remember the exact wording, the impact of that condition was not to require that those things be completed before the issuance of the building permit. Obviously, they've got work to do before they get the building permits in place in terms of demolition and things of that nature. But we really, my thought was, we really want the applicant to present the final architectural plans, materials, colors, etc., through the planning board office to work with them on that, and then to bring it back to us. Not that all of that would have to be done before they get a building permit, because that stops them completely from doing any work on the site. So in my mind, I'd clarify that by deleting the requirement, but must occur prior to the issuance of building permits.
Would that be on
both
1
1 and
and
2?
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, as a general rule, if you leave the condition unstated, we already assume that it's a condition prior to the issuance of building permits. So the comment is somewhat repetitive to have it in there. The building department will not issue a building permit on something that's gone through your site plan review process unless all of the conditions have been met, or unless there's a general agreement with the building department, our staff, and the applicant that there's a particular reason why a particular condition be left until later than that. Now, usually the only ones that we leave till later than that are landscaping decisions, because that makes some sense in there.
Like we did tonight on Dunkin' Donuts.
Right. Landscaping decisions, sometimes what we'll say is, when you get to a plant, sometimes it makes some sense to do your site work and start placing a building in place to do landscaping conditions. I guess I'm concerned, and maybe I'm looking for some clarification. It's one thing to address architectural details before demo permits. It starts getting to be dicier to address architectural details before foundation permits, particularly if they're going to impact where foundations are placed. It's very difficult to address architectural details after the permit for the actual development of the structure has been put together, because some of those elements do impact the structural design that addresses the actual building permit being conditioned. So I guess what I would ask is, if you want to change the wording of that rather than just removing that wording, what might be helpful to us is addressing at what point in that process you think is appropriate to do that, because just removing it would probably still put the building department in a position where they would expect it to be done prior to their issuance of building permits, unless there's another point in that process that's more appropriate.
Well, I'm just attempting to clarify what was said at the time. This might be a case where you're going to have to look at the actual tape to determine that, if you want to get the exact wording down. Other than that, I'd be uncomfortable modifying anything without the applicant being present.
Just the way the building department's going to read this, with or without that line, is they will not issue building permits until those conditions are met.
Mr. Chairman, I guess I would wonder why we wouldn't want to wait to issue a building permit until some of these issues are addressed. I mean, it kind of, I think it sounds like a good idea for the city to wait until the conditions that we implement are met before they issue a building permit. That's sort of our leverage to make sure the conditions are met. And based on the letter, I don't know, maybe we're putting them through some kind of hardship, but it's not clear that exists, and I'm wondering why we wouldn't want to wait until the conditions are met before we issue a building permit. I mean, I want to make sure that our conditions are met, and if George is saying that issuing a building permit might result in, like for instance, if they need to go to the historic board staff to finalize the architectural details, and the issuance of a building permit may circumvent some of the details that they want to issue, then maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should. Maybe it was our intention to have the building permit issued before they continue. Have the conditions met before we issue the building permit.
Yeah, and that may be something we need to clarify in the future at some point. But I think for tonight, all we can really do is take a look at what the actual motion, what was said, reiterate that in the form of this decision, and the applicant can deal with it from there.
Well, I think what can be helpful, what we can do if it's helpful, is we can take a look at the way it's actually worded. Certainly, sometimes when we try to take the discussion in the meeting and place it into the wording in the form of a motion and really put some strict language behind it, we add some, I mean, we work to try to put some structure behind what you're actually trying to say. And it may be that those words were added to try to put some structure behind that. If those words were not in your actual motion, we could remove them and modify the letter. But I think what may make sense, and I can have this conversation with Attorney Flood, is that I don't believe that doing that changes the fact that it would still be necessary to do the conditions before the issuance of building permits. But I will...
And if you have any questions with Attorney Flood, you can always have him just bring it back before us.
Right.
And then we can review the tape, and then we'll open up for discussion before the board members.
Right, but I
know now that half the site's already leveled. Yeah, that was by the today. I mean, half it's already gone.
Right, well, and the demo permit
I mean, I
is-
think the historic part wouldn't be the hardest part, you know? And then to at least give us some architectural renderings to let us know what it's gonna look like.
Yeah,
So I know,
it's fair.
if you look at some of the other conditions, talk to the architectural. I think, Steve, you put in the question, you wanted I think it's down here further about the boards being a certain size. Wasn't it like they had to be 6 inches or something, I remember, Steve?
Yeah, the facial.
Oh, yeah, yeah, the facial board and stuff of that nature. So I think those two, I think it was, what do you want, Steve, 6 inches on the facial board or something on the corners, was it, I think?
Yeah, that's number 3. Number
Number
3.
3 somewhere, yeah. So I think part of those, almost a little bit incorporated, and the architectural plan, so we have to see those, you know? So if there's a question on it, I don't think he could give us a preliminary review of the architectural, and then we could ask him to come in and give us another as they move along. But obviously, I think they should be able to give us an update. Because I bet they've probably talked with the historic board staff since they've left here, most likely, for what this is gonna look like. So they probably have some more, they've probably already fine-tuned it to some degree since we met on, the June 13th date.
Also, I do believe they had their demo permit in hand before they even went through the review process, so...
Yeah, I mean, I know it's half down now.
Right. So that
Mostly
certainly...
towards Roger Street, a little bit back further, about halfway back is where it's still up.
So we'll go back and look, and if
And then
that doesn't
and,
reflect what's in the tape, we'll reflect
And
what's
if
in the
Attorney
tape.
Flood has any questions, tell him he can definitely address it with the board, and we'll take the matter up. And see if he already has some ideas of what he already has already for the architectural, just tell him he can bring them in when he's, pretty sure we'll probably see him in the near future sometime.
Sure. Yep.
Just hanging out, yeah.
So I think we can address it that way. Is that okay, Joe? You have any questions on that?
Nope, that's
Just
fine.
have him bring them in there. Anybody else have any further questions? Okay, so we can, Division Plan Development, we'll speak with him on that. If not, we can have him come back before us and we'll try to address it. Or if he has any plans already, he can bring those in before us. Anybody else have any further questions or modifications on the June 4th minutes? If not, we'll entertain a motion for approval.
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Aye, those are approved. Next ones would be the June 18th minutes. Any corrections? I have none.
I have none.
None? None? Okay. Anybody like to make a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the June 18th planning board minutes as presented.
Second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those minutes have been accepted.
Mr. Chairman, I'll abstain from the voting on that minute since I wasn't at the
So we
meeting.
have 4 in favor and 1 abstention because Mr. Jenner wasn't present. Moving along, we have notices from abutting towns. Any concerns with the package that we received from what's going on in the other areas? Having none, we'll entertain a motion placed on file.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We didn't receive any zoning board of appeals legal notices tonight.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I can explain briefly why you don't. I actually have a packet of the Zoning Board of Appeals notices here. There are 2 items on the Board of Appeals agenda for the 23rd of July.
Bolt
One
Street, right?
is the Bolt Street tower that you've already ruled on, and the other is the drive-through for the Dunkin' Donuts
Okay,
that you ruled on today. So rather than including in your package things you've already seen before, we left those out. If you'd like to make any recommendation other than to ensure that your conditions already made are applied to the zoning board decisions, we can do that. Otherwise, we would make the zoning board aware of the conditions you applied when these were before you for public hearings and make sure the zoning board includes those conditions in their approval.
That's fine with me. Board members will be heard on that, okay? So forwarded, all right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any general correspondence from board members? I just have one. On September 17th, it's a Monday. I won't be able to be here that Monday. I was wondering if the board members would be willing to continue the meeting to the 20th, which would be a Thursday. Any problems with that, or do the board members want to have it and without my absence?
Thursday's fine with me.
Board members have any problems with that? I know we meet that Thursday after Labor Day, then the following Monday, the third Monday would be the 17th. I'm out of town on that Monday. I didn't know if the 20th would be agreeable to all the other board members.
Fine with me.
Anybody have any objections to that? Or if not, we can take up the next meeting, but I like to try to put out 2 months in advance if it affects anybody's schedule. If not, you want to look at it, we can bring it up. I'll put it on the agenda for next month. That way give people a chance to look at their planners.
I'll put it in now.
Yeah, that would be good if we could do that.
Okay.
So you're proposing moving it to September 20th?
Yeah, the 17th to the 20th. The 17th I'm out of town, so
That
I
would
don't
be
know what's on, but I just like to...
That'd be a Thursday?
Yeah. So usually if I know 2 months in advance, I try to see if it's okay with the other board members, but... So... I just found out last week, so I figured if I had to do it sooner, better, but... I'll bring it up again next month, but I just want to throw that out there, let people consider that, so... Having said that, no further discussion, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I do have one comment before we close out, or request perhaps. We've had discussions in the past regarding the minutes, how we should attempt to streamline them and not have, the torture of putting James or whoever's going to be doing them, try and do some verbatim transcriptions. And I think especially where we have the tapes available, we should make a push to streamline the minutes, not the he said, you said, this said, whatever. We can just get into what the actual decision was and who was in favor and who was opposed, just so we have the names and addresses, and if they need to be reviewed, they can be reviewed. The most important part of the minutes are the notice of decisions, and I think that it's important that we as members get the notice of decision as soon as it's written, even before it goes to the city clerk or before it goes to the applicant. So if there's any issues such as what came up tonight, we might be able to address them prior to them being submitted to the city clerk, finalized, go to the applicant, and we see it 2 months later. Then it's too late. So I think I'd like to make a push that we streamline the minutes and we get the notice of decision immediately as soon as it's written by email, so that we can all take a look at it and address it if
I'm in
necessary.
favor of that.
Yeah.
I have been asking, and I don't know if it's been happening, if you've all been receiving them, but the policy should be that we do an update to the clerk that we call our meeting actions. In the past, we've been trying to start emailing them to you when they're written. They're usually done 2 or 3 days after the meeting. What we can do that's probably a simple fix is we can email them to you and then wait a couple days before we deliver them to the clerk, so that if those meeting actions list the conditions of approval on them. So if you see a problem with a condition, particularly on a motion that you made not reflecting the way that you made it, it came up twice in the minutes today about those that we were reviewing, you can nip that early before we actually then copy that onto a decision letter and send it out. And we'll try to do something where we'll wait 48 to 72 hours between sending you the meeting actions and actually delivering the decision letter to the clerk's office. That may streamline and close off some of those issues. So, I do see that as important. And then if the minutes are streamlined, they're very similar to the meeting actions with a couple of little things added, and that makes it simpler to get minutes to you on time. I believe we're caught up now, but we'll try as we bring our new person on to try to get those pieces together and get them done in a way that's more effective and that more significantly addresses making sure that your concerns are reflected in the decisions the way that you meant them to be when you made the initial motions.
I think the main thing is that it's usually more fresh in everybody's mind exactly what happened. So I know on the time we got them in the past, a couple times, there was just some minor corrections. I know I emailed James back and he already caught his own correction, but it was the first time I saw it, and I mentioned it to him, so he did change it. And
Right.
then a couple of times, I know we just sent out the addendum. I think what Joe says, if we see it first, then he wouldn't even have to send out the addendum.
Yep.
So, I mean, you know, if he just, when he's working on him, as I told him, just send them out to him. I told him if he wanted to do the same thing with the minutes, if they wanted to show them to us on the email first, before he dropped them, before he brought them to us, but he said he'd rather not do that, but that's just a suggestion for, especially if the new person is coming on.
Sure.
He doesn't feel comfortable putting the minutes together until they get some feedback from us. If you want to run it by them, George.
Right.
I mean, whatever, you know, they feel comfortable until they get used to it. I know James has been doing it for a few years now, but
Yep.
that person might not be totally comfortable with,
Right, and
how
he
we
may,
deal with things, and might not want to wait to bring it in. If they have a question, they can check with one of us by email. We could be more than happy to respond.
right, sure. And, you know, I'll have the discussion with him, and as he gets to work with you, you know, you may develop a different style with him than you did with James or with me or with Adam or, you know, folks before us. So, you know, just whatever works. We're certainly flexible. I mean, we really see the major purpose of the associate planner position is to serve the needs of the board, however that may be. So we'll work to do that the best we
So
can.
once we get that, like, as Joe said, that final piece done, and we know it's a lot to the city departments, everything else.
Yeah.
Usually I keep those myself and just refer those 10 minutes, you know, as a memory key.
Yeah.
And I think that's, once that gets distributed to the applicant and it gets to the city, and people are going to appeal our decisions, that's what they're going on instead of the minutes down the road. A lot of them
Right,
don't even use the
right.
minutes when they go to court.
No, and that's important. And it is key. You know, a lot of times when we do the decisions, we rattle off items that were in our comment letters or something and say, you know, the engineer's comments on this and that. And we do try when we take them and write them into the decision letter to extrapolate the details from that. It seems like a case like the one we were talking about today, we probably extrapolated more detail than we actually had, which isn't appropriate. But we're trying to pull together enough to be able to have something that we and the applicant all know on, and it's usually we take things that we write as, you know, you may want to do this, and if you put it as a condition, we turn it into the applicant must do that to make sure that it's worded in such a way that there's an understanding of what it is. One of the things that you can help us with, in general, we work with the building department on when those conditions are enforced. We usually do them before building permits are issued, except for certain things that we put forward if there's a reason to put forward. If there's something you certainly want done before building permits are issued, or you want held off until later, if you specify that when you make the condition, we'll make sure that's exactly written in there that way, and that would be probably a more appropriate way than trying to sometimes fill in those gaps without it being completely clear. And the other thing we're in the process of doing is instituting, or more like reinstituting, a process where we're trying to get the department heads to actually meet together once every 2 weeks to look at the plans, so that some of their comments will reflect each other's issues as well as just sort of looking at them in a vacuum. We've started that process this month. The new building commissioner and new city engineer asked for that, so we're working to do that. And then as we get involved in that process, we're hoping to go to a more streamlined electronic format where they would respond with their comments to us, which would make it easier for them to do so as well, and make it easier to get those back and get them to you earlier. Hopefully that might even mean we could get the packets together earlier, which would be nice.
That could be
as well.
helpful where the city engineer wants a roadway a certain way, and then the fire department says, well, if you do it that way, now we have this issue. And then he says, well, how about if I do it this way? Then he says, well, then we can do it that way, instead of back and forth and, you know.
The goal is exactly that, to make sure that you don't get competing comments from different departments that
We've seen
conflict with
before,
each
yeah,
other.
yeah.
So if those are going to happen, hopefully we'll settle them in the meeting before you see the comment letters, and the comment letters will reflect a consensus approach rather than competing issues.
Yeah, competing recommendations. And
Yeah.
And that's an opportunity to get the applicant involved as well, if the departments can get together and meet. If the applicant is available to be able to modify the plans in conjunction with whatever is stated with the department heads, that's going to streamline the process for them as well.
Hopefully by September, we'll have ourselves on a scheduled meeting date where applicants could come in for like a 15-minute appointment during that time, and actually, after we've hashed some of the concerns through, they'd be able to sit there and come in, hear the concerns, figure out how they can address them, and possibly get a better version back to you before even the packets go out, which would.
And I know a lot of
move
times
this
some of the
process
applicants
forward.
will address a lot of your concerns.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't. Sometimes we've seen the preliminary, the same as the public hearing, then they've asked for continuous to modify. But yeah, that way we cut down a lot of department, your comments to us if they've already addressed them in-house with staff.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any further discussion? Entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned. Good night. Thank you, everybody.